Welcome back to the long-awaited episode 24 of Around the Mage Table. I'm going to first introduce everyone before we tell what the heck has happened. So, Technique, are you safe? Are you sound?
Family's good, dogs are good.
Good.
Don't care about the cats. We're all set.
Okay.
We will talk more about that in a second. Shawnee on location. Wow, I think you've crossed the border into the US, is that right?
I am at Foxwood Resort in Connecticut. It's pretty nice and swanky. I have a hot tub in my room.
And they gave you, what's the title you have for you in Discord? The general?
Did the guild pay for that, Shawnee?
The guild didn't pay for it. The room title was, I got the director's room.
Yeah, no, but what's the title for you I have in Discord?
The Governor General.
Governor General. That's the room, yeah. Okay. The director's Governor's General room, okay. Yeah, and sorry, you're at the resort, but what are you doing there? You're at a trade show?
I got a tattoo festival this weekend at a resort right next to it that I'll be going to tomorrow.
I have a question for Scrap. Scrap, how come you never go to trade shows? Why is Shawnee more popular and more famous than you?
Why don't I go to shows? Because I have social anxiety. I'm not like Shawnee's, first of all.
And I would say that with all the things that are going on, Scrap, the worst thing that's happened to you over the past 4 weeks, whatever it's been since we've last had an episode, you had an ear infection that almost killed you. Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, almost killed me, maybe a bit of exaggeration, but I was very sick for like half a week, and I did complain a lot about it.
So we had a 2-parter episode while I was on vacation, which I think was about 3 weeks ago. I came back. We were gearing up to do this episode, what we're doing right now, on that Wednesday, but then Technique lost his internet for a day or two, or he was trying to figure out what the heck was going on. Decided to sign up for fiber. Next day, the internet was still out. Oh, no, sorry. Decided to sign up for Spectrum and get off fiber, right? But either way, 2 days.
Anyway, it's supposed to be fiber. But
2 days you just didn't have the internet you needed. So we delayed till Friday. And for those of you that lived in the Southeast, especially those in North Carolina, Georgia, Tennessee, and anyone else that's been affected by it, that is when Hurricane Helene hit us. And Technique, I'll let you take it away. Tell us what happened the fateful morning of that Friday.
Long story short, I mean, we took some damage to the house, some bad damage to the house. And both my cars, my truck and my car were totaled. So, not a good day for us.
I mean, he's kind of downplaying that there was a tree going through his house while he was playing WoW.
I like genuinely.
I did turn the generator on to power the computer and use my hotspot to try to keep up.
It was atrocious, and if it's okay with you, I'll just post some pictures up of it on the editing of this. Yeah. We obviously are very thankful that you're safe, and it seems like while the damage was bad, especially on your cars, they didn't force you out of the house yet, right?
No, we're gonna be. I wouldn't leave the house right now anyway.
You defy them.
Yeah, I mean, we gotta keep the place from squatters and looters coming in here.
Fair enough.
Valuable things in here.
Well, so you lost power and of course internet with that. I lost power and internet with that for about a week. And then I went out of town just to stay with my in-laws while I had 3 kids that had no school because they had lost power as well. And I came back that Tuesday night, because you guys were raiding, ready to record last week, and then Scrap's eardrums blow out.
I was really sick. I'm sorry.
And
we're here now.
I say all that because, obviously, we're sorry. We're sorry it's been so long. Right?
We're sorry.
We're back. We're so thankful to be back. But I say all that because it's been a lot also to step in our way with the new season and, more importantly, the new Mythic Plus scene, right? So that is going to be a big topic of our episode today. It is a hot topic. I've been paying more and more attention to Twitter, WoW Twitter, I'll call it, lately. And it is shocking how many points of view you see on Twitter these days.
All negative too.
Not all negative. No, there's actually some, people who speak sense, but either way, it's wild.
Those are the bots.
Yeah. Anyways, before we do that though, let's take a quick recap of our current IO contest. So in case Scrap has forgotten what it is,
I've forgotten.
The game is the entire season. Correct me, Shawnee, right? Am I right?
Correct. 100% entire season.
Which should be about 12-ish weeks to
Yep.
get the highest possible IO. And last night, no, you actually probably overtook me last night and I didn't know it, Scrap, but I went into last night thinking I was
I
in the
overtook
lead.
you last week, bro.
No, you didn't. I checked. You're such an
I
asshole.
think I did.
So, I know you didn't because Monday night when we balked that necrotic wake and every other dungeon we tried that night, I knew I still had the lead on you. So you got it yesterday. You
I
prick.
think you only had the lead on me by like 2 points, though. If you had a lead
No.
on me,
Okay.
at some point we're
I'm
gonna
not
show
going
a
to get baited
chart
in this.
of-
Anyways,
No, I want
um,
to see a chart up and down because
so our
Go on,
current
Connor.
leader is Scrapclaw at 2566. I'm behind her at
Scrap.
2536, despite my best efforts to time a 10 city and a time a 10 Arakara. Technique snuck into third this evening and is now at 2513 with a couple of 10s
First
under his
time I've been
belt.
able to sit down and
it's
fucking
not
play.
fair technique though. He's a tank. He can pug so easily.
Okay, we'll
It's
get to
not
that
fair
later.
to technique. I mean, I can't be carried by anyone. A, I can't be carried. B, I haven't been able to play for a fucking week, Scrap.
That's true.
Yeah, Scrap.
So
I
insensitive.
can play for half a week. We're
Um,
gonna get this trash talking section.
and-
Let's go.
And I hate to say it, Shawnee. I know you've worked your
It's
butt
all right.
off, but you're out of town, so there is
Yeah,
a
on
grace
vacation.
period.
He last week had a really early, significant lead, and I think that kicked us into gear.
Well, we can talk a little bit more about it when we get to meta, but he is playing, in my opinion, the meta class.
And I forgot to be mad at you guys because last week you had a hella lead on me because you teamed up against me.
No, we didn't team
Unbelievable.
up.
So you
just
keys
played-
put me together.
Shawnee, would you
It's
think
Because
it's
you weren't
fair?
there.
Would you
Mhm.
think it's fair to say we teamed up against her when every single one of her best keys of those 8 dungeons, only one was done with people in the guild?
Well,
I
hold
would,
on, some I've done
I
with like
mean,
one
yeah.
person in the
Nope.
guild.
Nope. Not when I checked it last week. when I
when I
updated this
did
last week, thinking we were going to do
Both
the episode.
cities. That's true.
you know, after seeing her performance in the keys we did with her, I
That
would say,
performance.
yeah, I would say, no one's teaming up against you but yourself and your own
Great.
DPS.
By all means, pull up my logs, Shawnee.
Okay, we will save this for a little bit. Okay,
I believe my logs are very, very high.
there's too much to
Well,
talk
yeah.
about today to focus in on delves, but we
Look, I'm
also
just
have our
sipping my drink
second
here.
contest, which is Technique saying it would take him 17 days. Was
I
the
also
yeah.
won that contest, Frank.
you weren't a part of that
Did
contest?
you do it?
I did
She
an
did.
11 delve before Mythic Plus even opened.
No, not
Like,
11 delves. You were supposed to do
Not
the question mark
not
question
plus
mark
plus.
delve.
The double question mark Zekfir, is that what we're competing to?
Yeah.
Because I did the
I didn't do
Zekfir
that.
and I did an 11, but I haven't done the double question mark yet.
The double
I've
question
also-
mark is the challenge.
Okay, yeah. So if we could just
Oh.
rewind a week, that'd be great.
By the way,
Yep.
for those listening,
Emily?
hearing the clackety clacking of Technique's keyboards, it's clear he started a key to get himself back up a lead.
He's trying to catch up.
I'm
It's
not-
cheating.
I'm
We have
not-
to lay down more rules.
What rules?
I'm
Why?
not. I'm not playing as I can't take my eyes off the screen.
I'm trying to look
it's
at the
like
camera.
Catfight. There is no rules.
There's no the rules of catfight are I decide the rules. So this
Okay.
game too.
So, let's just jump straight into a little bit of news. The most important of being, there it is. Technique, you heard this
This
news right before we started.
The
The
most
new
important news.
Thrall voice pack to come to Waze. You
Waze.
scrambled Waze, excuse me, as you go to Tarjay. You'd scramble to download this before the episode began. I don't know if you're even able to look at it
Yeah.
because again, you're running a key.
I'm not running a key. I'm gonna delve.
Okay.
I can put it down anytime I want. I can
Right
stop
now.
anytime I want. Anytime I want.
All joking aside, I mean, like, I feel like the reason I want to put this in here is I feel like the marketing team for Blizzard has really stepped it up a notch. And
Oh my gosh, I've been posting the shorts they have on YouTube
Yeah.
like every couple days. Their shorts are so funny.
Did you
Like,
see the one
they're
today
really
where
good.
they are talking about the anniversary tier sets and someone like zones into a
Yes!
dungeon and it's like, oh, I'm sorry, and then let me
It's a
change the
druid.
quality and they turn into a potato and then they come
I
back.
think my favorite one recently is it was like a
Where do you
nature
guys see
documentary style,
commercials?
and they were talking about like the
No, not
DPS
commercials.
Axis affliction where they're jittering back and forth or whatever. So I was like, oh my god, come for me, why not?
They no, their YouTube shorts or TikToks, all that kind of like shorts.
They're
that they
really
have out there.
good.
Yeah,
Social
I agree.
media shit. Okay. I'll do that.
But anyways, like I said, I think it's really cool. This is like one of those, again, part of the 20th anniversary event too, I'm sure. We have that event coming up. So speaking of which, we have a launch date with it, and that will be on October 22nd. It will run through January 6th. That's a good 2.5 months. Where
that's
we will,
longer than I thought.
well, and based on what I saw on Twitter, grinding up all the celebration tokens to get everything you possibly want out of this is a bit of a slog, but 80 days to do so. May not feel as bad. The most exciting thing for me is going to be this new raid. I just, I love a good time with the guild to do a heroic version of it, which is nice. Obviously, we need to get Queen Ansorek down before we go. For those following our progress, which no one is, we are 7 of 8 in heroic right now. And I would say that we were doing like really well progressing at all points up until phase 1 of Ansorek.
You got back into town?
No.
Oh.
When did you guys down the Silken Court with me, you dickwad?
It's just because I had to kill the other 4 for you.
Frank,
Okay.
you can't throw our prog under the bus. We hit
I'm
the
actually
intermission.
joking.
That was huge.
We hit the intermission last week, but we did it dead,
With like
so
2
it doesn't.
people alive.
Yeah.
I mean, if you guys can get that done this week, that'd be great.
I think we can. Because the rest
Shawnee
is
doesn't
easy,
care about
right?
getting ATC. He just won't stop raiding. Well, I've got some bad news, Shawnee. We're gonna have a raid as soon as you get back, anyways, or in 2
There's
weeks.
gonna be a new raid.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Now
I don't know if I need to do that right.
I don't suspect this will be hard, anyways. I think it'll just be more
I'm
of
really
like
excited for this because I like the idea of them. Like once we get AOTC, our guild doesn't really raid much. Like we'll do alt raid for a couple weeks, but we kind of get over it and then don't do anything. But
It's
I like
really
the idea
about the
of them bringing.
legendaries.
Yeah. But they're like, okay, like so later in the season, we'll put in a silly fun raid that's like got some cool stuff for you to get the band back together on Tuesdays. So it works really well for our specific guild.
Yeah, I think it'll be fun. And then we got the tier sets coming back, which everyone's lost their
We
mind,
love
of
them.
course.
a hunter.
We talked about it again, I think already, but like the Pally one looks great, and the new Monk one and the new DK one and all that stuff looks great. And then of course the time walking of the dungeons. So what was it? Zul'Farrak, Dire Maul, East and West, Stratholme. I guess that's part 1, part 2, because there was 2 parts to that, if I remember correctly. Dead Mines. And I feel like Wailing Caverns wasn't in there. That's right. But either way, some
Can't
good.
wait to do some Dead Mines, dude.
And so
Dead
I don't know
Mines,
if you
yeah.
guys saw this, but they made a change to time walking, where it used to be that you would scale down to the content, and they've changed it to that the content will scale up to you. Now, I don't really think this will affect anyone, but rumor is that this will make it harder, which I think is a good thing, because time walking usually was just like a, press W and not even worry about DPSing.
Yeah.
But I'm looking forward to talking with you all about that and all the other events. Like there's a mount, I guess.
I see
new mount
something
game.
relevant to technique there is that they're giving a new Amani Warbear
Oh,
skin.
yeah, no.
It's not the Amani Warbear.
He was just talking about that on the podcast.
Yeah,
that,
literally like 2 days
they're not
after we said it,
giving
they announced
he's
this.
like, they better not give out the Amani Warbear, and they're like, we're giving out the Amani Warbear.
They didn't
it's
say
funny.
it. They
It's
just
like a
used that as the
purple one or
concept art.
whatever.
There was like, and the most amazing mounts, and it was like the Money
Yep.
Warbear.
It's pretty funny.
And of course, Shamans
Yep.
get their new Ascendance model, which I'm sure they're excited about. There will be tuning as well. Scrap, there's some survival changes.
Not just changes; it's a rework.
It's not a full rework, is it?
It's a pretty significant. It's a rotational rework,
Okay.
so it should be pretty big.
Some paladin changes for you, Shawnee.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a couple things for mage, and of course 1 line for warriors. So I'm sure they're excited.
One line
Um,
for warriors always.
So let's jump into then the main topic. And there's a little of an asterisk before we do, because we are the Mythic Dungeon League. We focus heavily on Mythic Plus. I think we would all agree that that seems to be the way that the game trends in general, because we talked about it in a podcast like 3-4 months ago about how there was X amount of Mythic Plus dungeons run, and it was growing and growing and growing into season 3. Of course, it fell off in season 4, but that's to be expected. I actually need to go back and see if they're posting on Reddit about this season. But I was shocked to see a poll hosted by Warcraft on Twitter about what is your season 1 focus. And again, dungeons came in second, which is where I thought dungeons would be ahead of raiding and PvP. But shocked to see people were voting for delves. Now, of course, this is a Twitter poll. It's not binding in any way. People might have just been trolling, but I think we've seen obviously some tuning changes. This was taken on September 20th, which I think was right after some of the tuning changes. But we are now 2 more weeks ahead of that, even maybe more, 3 weeks. And is anyone in here still running delves?
I'm in one right
No.
now.
You missed my whole delve phase because I came on the podcast the last
Ready to
time, maybe
go?
the time before. No, talking shit about delves. I'm never gonna do them. I don't like it. Blah, 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 blah. Then we had that one week where there was nothing to do. There was just Mythic Zeros, and I was like, I was obsessed, man. I wanted to get the 11 done. I wanted to get the Zekvir done. I was like super into it, and then second Mythic Plus came out. Done. No more. None. And no interest.
Yeah.
Okay.
I haven't done any before this one personally, so
what
I'm just
was
doing this
now.
because something to do.
what was it about it that you were enjoying at the time?
It's what I had talked about before, that I wanted like a difficult single player experience that felt fair. Now, mind you, I was playing on a hunter, so I was having an easier time than a lot of people. You know, I know that I'm not throwing you under the bus, but you're saying that you had difficult experience as a mage,
It
like even
wasn't
in eights.
uncommon to see Clothies having trouble.
You had the same gear level as me, and I
No, I
wasn't
didn't.
having as much trouble as you.
No,
Well,
I didn't.
okay, more or less, but you
You
couldn't
were
do an
10
8.
eye
I was
levels ahead of me.
11.
More or
It's
less.
okay, whatever. This was weeks ago.
Scrap,
I
remember,
heard a
I
lot
was
of
in
people
Toronto,
complaining.
Disney, beach. I didn't have
That's true. That's
anything
true.
under my
Well,
belt.
let me just say, just the Zekvir, the first tier of Zekvir, I killed in like 5 pools, super easy. And then there's other people who are like, they couldn't even do it by themselves at all. And it's
Yeah.
not just like they're bad. It's just like it wasn't as balanced to every class as they promised it would be.
I could not do it as
Which
prompt, but as
no
soon
one
as I
was
went
surprised.
arms, I did it in 3 pulls.
No one was surprised, but I mean, we got it. We can't let them off the hook for promising this shit over and over again and never following through on it so spectacularly. Like that whole classes and specs can't do it. And same with the double question mark now. I mean, I think they cut out a lot of the cheese that people were performing with like Bran and stuff, like the first week or two. So it's very difficult. I'm getting off track. What I was saying, what I liked about it is that I like a difficult single player challenge. And for me, it was hitting the sweet spot. It was totally accomplishable. It wasn't just like
And it had
way too
meaningful
punishing.
rewards.
It had really good rewards. Yeah, dude. In when
It's
only
the only
Mythic
way to-
Zeros were open, getting
it's the only way to-
heroic gear.
Crash your vault up, yeah.
Yeah, and getting the maps, dude, awesome. But yeah, no, don't. I'm not doing them anymore. Why would I?
Would
Like,
you so the rumor is, and I think it's confirmed, that going forward they won't do a preseason week like they did with this week. You know, mostly because they may have just wanted us to experience delves before we experience the season, but they won't
Yeah,
do
I
that
like
again
that.
apparently.
Oh, okay.
Do you think you'll revisit delves even if it's in just 1 week of the first week of the season?
If there's like a reward, like a title or something or amount, you know, like there is now, I might hit it up. I kind of want to do the double question mark Zekvir just for the mount. Like I've just been really busy doing Mythic Plus, but no, I don't think I'm gonna like casually do it. Ugh.
Shawnee, what about you?
I do like them. I just haven't taken the time to do them for the last couple. Mythic Plus opened and I left elves,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and that
You
was
got
pretty
you got
much-
hungry
yeah,
for that IO.
Yeah, I still am. I'm just on vacation on a toaster of a laptop.
I
Yeah.
think there's going to be a lot to delves if they can just keep, you know, building upon it. This is a reply to it, which was, imagine if they had a leaderboard. Now, part of me is like, well, that sounds awesome because, you know, everyone likes to get super competitive. But as you pointed out, Scrap, if one class or one sets of, you know, Clothies or whatever aren't competitive at all, then it's just going to be
Yeah.
shutting the door on almost everyone that isn't perfectly competitive. And no one wants a meta of delves, right? So,
Yeah.
you know, there's
A leaderboard, I can see a fringe case for it. I don't think that would make me want to do it more.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But like I said, it's season 1. You know, Mythic Plus wasn't perfect in its first season. They've got, you know, grown so much on it. So hopefully it comes to a bigger importance in season 2 and beyond. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's talk Mythic Plus. All right.
Yeah.
Now, before we do that, I keep saying before we do that before every topic.
Before
part
we
of-
do
part
that,
of-
we're never
part of
talking
talking
it. We
about
gotta go
Mythic
an
Plus-
hour.
Part of talking about
wait.
Mythic Plus is talking about what everyone picked as their main because of the tier lists. Okay. So here's our
People are
meta list.
switching mains now in our group because of the tier list. Like,
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
okay. So here's what our tier list was, okay? And I actually posted this in Discord for y'all to look at alongside with we're looking at something else, but Arcane was supposed to be S tier. Now, granted, this was, I think, heavily influenced by Raid as well, but everyone kept talking about Arcane, right?
Yep.
Og, of course, always talked about in that regard. Holy Paladin was supposed to be the healer for M+ and Raid as well.
We've seen a shift in that for sure.
We have, well, they've been shifting all over the place.
I don't think they were ever the best, personally, but
This was the aggregate data before Mythic Plus opened, right?
Well, this was
All
the
the
aggregate
tier lists.
data off of the beta.
Off the
Like
beta. Okay,
YouTube
okay.
and stuff too.
Just to
Okay,
remind
yeah.
people, we took all these tier lists from all these content creators and stuff and made like an aggregate tier list. That's
Yes.
where this is coming from.
Yes, this is essentially the Metacritic of tier lists.
Yes.
And so, you know, you got Fury, but I think Arms was quite low. Fire and Frost there. Frost and Unholy in the A tier, so good, but not the best, right? Enhancement. Let's see, tanks. What were the best tanks? So the best tank was supposed to be Prot Warrior.
No.
Wait, did you
back
pass
in
through?
beta,
that
they were
win?
saying, "Oh, it's gonna be Demon Hunters again."
Oh, and
They
it's
were
absolutely
saying
not.
that they were saying that too. I will give you, yeah, I heard a lot of that too.
Because kite meta.
But in the tier list, they rated them B. They weren't rated the best. So it was them, Prot Warriors, sorry, Bear Druids were supposed to be up there. There's Survival, Shadow is supposed to be really good. And then of course Balance down here at the bottom. Sorry, I'll scroll down a little bit. Balance here at the bottom, Monks at the bottom. And was it Outlaw? So that was our meta list, okay? Well, let's look at the actual data. What is this, 3 weeks now into the raid? And 3 weeks into the season. So this is the raid data. I'm going to refresh this just to make sure. Fire Mage number 1.
Was that previous tier list? That was Mythic Plus data, correct?
That was tier list for any of the content. I do have them separated out in the actual meta, but for this, I don't want to go off in tangents. So
yeah.
So this is for raid. This is all percentiles. So I didn't do the top 95 percentile. But Fire Mage, Enhancement Shaman, Arcane's there. So Arcane is doing well single target, but you can also see a lot of people don't know how to play Arcane.
Yes,
Frost and Unholy,
the case.
they were closely performing based on the tier list as well. There's Havoc. Rhett is doing fairly well. Now, Shawnee, I heard that they made some changes today or yesterday.
Yeah, this is raid.
Yeah.
This is raid, yes.
Tuesday, yeah. They made changes and it's like a 10% buff at least.
Yep. And Beastmaster got buffed as well, but this was actually, I think, mostly before buff. Survival right there. Anyways, there's Feral. Down at the bottom, Augmentation, ignore that. Frost Mage not doing well in the raid. Shadow Priest not doing well. Demonology, Outlaw. Fury not doing well. Now they've received a whole bunch of nerfs. Balance doing okay. This is actually the opposite of what we see in our raid, but that's just because we're bad players. You know, but again, we're not so heavily focused on raid. We like it. We don't care so much. So let's take a look at the Mythic Plus scene. So here's our meta representation so far. And you can see within the first 3 weeks, it was starting to kind of coalesce into Frost DK, mages of some sort, but it seemed to be going mostly in the Arcane favor. And, you know, like Rhett's up there. Og, of course, is up there. Assassin Rogues are doing well. They made some changes this week. It does look like some representation is getting more diversified, which is, again, always healthy for the game. You can see that represented over here in the green. But as far as performance goes, and this is, you know, the top 2,000 keys, so take it with a grain of salt. This is what we're seeing so far. Oh, there we go.
Oh,
Assassination Rogue
BM Hunters
at the top with Frost and Rhett. Unholy right behind them. Elemental Enhancement. Now again, Elemental I think got some changes that helped them out quite a bit. Marksmanship, which we saw at the start. Right? We saw Marksmanship do well. Bounce Druid are doing pretty well. And I want to call it Bounce Druid for 2 reasons. One, our Bounce Druid Zestier in the raid is doing really, really well. And
he's always at the top.
Yeah, and I lean on him also to help with mechanics. So like he's doing it while he's doing mechanics. So good for him. And they're not doing anywhere nearly, because, you know, if a spec is broken, like there's not really much you can do to be on top of a raid meter.
Yeah, maybe we should look at Beastmaster Hunter, which is below Og Evoker, which I don't think I've ever seen.
And this is after their changes. This is this week's after their changes.
God. Have you ever seen somebody below Og Evoker, like, since they introduced Og Evoker? No.
No, but I think there's a reason that we'll get to that in a second. But Bounce Drew doing well in our raid, and overall, I think they're like close enough that they're certainly not as we had them on the Medalist C list or C tier.
No, I've done a key or 2 with Zesty, I think, and he pumps.
Yeah, and
like,
the pugs have done it. They've done really well. Yeah,
and like they have a lot of great utility. So I don't know why they're being passed over. So
Mark
Well-
of the Wild is really tough to pass up.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. Yep. And that's what frustrates me because like I think we even talked about, we definitely talked about it in Discord, but like there are people on YouTube, I won't name names.
are we getting
Who-
into this now? Because I'm ready to get into this.
Well, we will get into it for the most part. Yes. Now,
Okay.
we will talk right now about class performance. Okay.
hmm
So we had people on YouTube just absolutely destroying a spec. They did make some minor changes to balance, as far as I can tell. Minor changes. They didn't like they essentially made it so that their spenders weren't more powerful than their builders weren't as more powerful than their spenders. But again, like even if you look at it, a lot of the average performance and even like the overall performance is very
I gotta
close
make
to
a
one
comment,
another.
bro.
It's just these guys are the outliers, and they're not. They're
Yeah.
like 5%, maybe 10% ahead. Technique, what's your comment? And we'll
Bro,
get to
you
the
remember
tanks
the
and
beginning
heroes
of
in
the
a second.
season? Remember the beginning of the season when I was saying it's going to be a melee spec, melee meta?
You did.
You
Look
did
at the
say
top
that.
three.
You did,
That's
you
like
did.
my ideal group is me, those three guys, and my brother Shaman Healer.
What
And
about
then we got a
me?
group. No, you don't have to be there. You're a hunter.
You're-
You're way down there. on the
You're
list. Look
B
how low you
tier,
are.
Scrap.
You're a B.
I
I'm
will
trying
say
to
I'm struggling because like to get into keys because normally the only thing I can actually say is like, oh, I bring heroism, but every fucking group has a resto shaman now. It's so annoying. Like
I
I
know
can't
we're gonna
bring
get
anything
to it
the
in a
table.
bit, so I'm
We're
gonna
getting
hold my
into it now.
comments.
We have to get into it
Well,
now.
okay, fine, dude. So invaluable class, Frost Death Knight, dude. I'm sorry, you gotta have a Death Knight in your dungeons as a tank.
I don't want to get
especially
into that.
as
What
a
do you
warrior
mean?
tank. I gotta have a Death Knight in my party, bro.
Why?
That's because no, I'll tell you
Because-
why. Because he only brings all melee classes and he wants a range kick.
No, that's wrong.
Well, his brother has a range kick.
I want the grip to pull all the.
Why
there's
don't
a
you
lot
just
of-
play Blood Death Knight
It's the
then?
same thing.
What?
Why
Why
don't you just-
Why not what?
Why don't you just play Blood Death Knight then?
Because I'm a warrior. I can't
Because
just
that's not
change
the
race
meta
and
group.
spec and class and shit. I can't just do that.
I want to get on my
Um,
soapbox, Frank. when
I
he's
don't.
done.
I don't have anything to do with Blood Death Knight tanking. I don't like that style of tanking. It's dog shit.
Fair enough.
for
Fair
me.
enough. We'll worry
I
about
don't
that in a
like it.
second. We'll worry about that in a second. Okay. Before or after, Shawnee? Do you want to go before Scrap or after Scrap?
Oh God.
Go
Probably.
before.
What do you want me to
Well,
exactly
just
say about this?
what are you surprised by? Like you didn't choose Rep because of the tier list, right? You just were happy
no,
with how
not
you
at all.
you
No, he
feel.
always does rap.
By the way, shout out to
I
Shawnee.
played-
Scrap, you and I, like, we have our dungeons where something's going wrong with us, like here and there, right? Dude, Shawnee's so consistent with not dying on our
He's so
Mythic Plus.
consistent. I don't know
So
how he
consistent with
does
not
it.
dying. Now, granted, he does have a bubble, but he is never in contention unless, like, obviously we've all died around him. So anyway, I just want to give you a shout
I've
out there,
got-
Shawnee.
I mean, I understand. He plays like he is. He's very stoic. He's very predictable. He stays kind of in one place. He's not jumping in and out. He's not spinning around like you and me are, like to our detriment. So I think
Frank
that's
does
part of what makes him a great player.
Yeah, mostly you.
Thank you so very much, both of you. Yeah, I only took Ret because I'd played like Rogue forever and then decided to do something new last expansion. And at the end of it, I was like, maybe I'll go back to Rogue. And I played it and I just found I like Ret more now. So yeah, I totally came into the expansion just because I liked Ret and it's close to a cleric from D&D in a way. Yeah, and it's been really good. I think the hardest part about Ret is even pugging, I'm having trouble getting into groups. And I was looking at a breakdown of keys the other days, and it was showing like how many people are playing Ret, and then like 7s to 8s, 8s to 9s, 10s plus for it, and like just the number goes down. I find hopefully as it goes on, they'll say like, oh, Ret's good, and I'll be able to get into pug keys easier. But right now, people are really like Mage and Og, and then like a Death Knight of some kind.
Well, and
For,
I
like,
think
Fun
I think
friends
that'll
like
change.
Case Dogs.
That'll
That'll
change over the
change.
case of next week. But yeah, it definitely was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
I mean,
I'm
not that
ready.
Oh wait, I'm almost done.
Go
Scrap.
ahead, finish,
And then,
finish.
Yeah, I don't think like I'll never sit here and say like I'm the best at the game. But I haven't really lost DPS at all unless I did a key and it was like one other Ret beat me. And then I had a Marksman Hunter beat me once. Otherwise, it's pretty much always win unless Frank has a Og with him. And then it's super close. But like, yeah, I feel like Rhett is performing super well, and the only like knock against it would be like single target's a little low. But if
Rumor
it
is
was
that's changed
higher,
though.
it'd be well, it's got 10% better at least with Templar. Yeah, and if it's better, then it'd be like I would put it up into S tier if its single target is as good as I think it will be. Like I wouldn't do a key without one.
Now we normally we need to get this started ASAP, but normally we would track our pug tier list and
I've been
what that
tracking it in my head, Frank.
No, well, we need to start putting like data to it though. We can't just say like
Right,
our
right.
gut, because God knows you might be still swayed by some things. But
Mhm.
like for example, right now, Druid Resto going into the F tier because I'm so upset with what they did to my key today.
Have you have the same experience with me? Because I was saying like, oh, like, you know, don't take meta people because that doesn't necessarily say they're good or whatever. But the only place where I found the tier list is accurate is
The
I've
bottom.
never pugged a resto druid, and I've done it like I think 5 or 6 times and made it past the first boss of 10. So,
know.
and I don't want to put any more hate out into the world because it's hard to get keys as an off meta class. But you guys need to do better. I don't know.
Well, I think WoW needs to do better because it's not.
That
It's
is
just
true.
resto druids are whatever they did to them. They're just
struggling.
They're struggling. And it's
Okay.
Yeah.
not the person.
I think the issue with resto is they don't have enough burst healing, and I'm not a healer, but
Yeah,
I know
and
that
it
when I get
seems-
chunked, a resto's like, "Oh, let me hot his ass up." I'm like, "Nah, bitch,
These
heal me."
dungeons feel very
And they just can't
demanding
do it.
of immediate healing. You know what I mean? Like just like you're
Yeah.
gonna if you're not topped off for this mechanic, it's dead, like sort of thing. And I think they
And it-
definitely struggle to have that foresight or
I think they need one
ability.
oh shit button that like pops a fat heal on one or two people.
Yeah.
You know, on a cooldown or something. But like I said, I
I've
don't
heard
play
from-
healers.
I've heard
Sorry,
from the
resto
healers
druids.
I've played with that it is like they're all saying this expansion seems like heal intensive compared to what they're used to. So I don't know if it's
Especially-
because it's like the start or just it.
Yeah.
Blizzard had said they wanted tanks to tanks, healers to heal, and DPS to DPS. So, I mean,
Well, I definitely think on the high
Bro,
ends.
I'm like averaging like 850 plus.
Yeah.
You've
in
always
these
had high
keys now.
DPS in your keys though.
yeah, most
yeah, but
warriors I
now that
find
I'm
are
like
averaging a lot.
Now that I'm like not a F tier tank, like we're doing all right. It's
Yeah,
fun,
I've
man.
definitely noticed having to have like a really heavy hand on my defensives pretty much all the time, which is good. Like you should anyway if you're in a key, especially like above 9.
Well, that
I-
too, even for tanking, is like I'm slamming all my damn
We
buttons.
we have
Yeah.
so much to talk about.
I know.
Like,
Well, what I
we're-
want to do just
Okay,
breeze.
let's
just-
talk
just
about the
put a
classes first.
brush
Scrap.
on.
Scrap. Talk about the
Okay, talk
classes.
about
Let's
the
start there.
classes. Okay. I was about to. You heard me going off on a tangent.
Yes.
Let me just say what I want to say about the meta stuff.
Okay.
Because I know this is a huge problem. I've seen people talking about it on Twitter. I've seen people talk about it in the Hunter Discord and stuff like that. No DPS can get into keys. It's very frustrating because it's like, oh, I've timed all 9s or all 10s or whatever, and I can't even get into keys I've already timed. I'm having that problem too. Like, and it's a DPS problem. Like the game is flooded with DPS. Everybody needs these gilded crests. So people who are like 2600 up are applying to 9s. And who are you going to pick in a 9? A 2600 or a 2400 person? But it's a huge. The meta makes the problem even worse because people have in their head like they want to make this group that is the Frost Death Knight, the Arcane Mage, the Ogvoker, and nothing else. Like they just can't envision anything else. I've had multiple keys where like I whispered somebody like, "Hey, I'm a Heroism. Like, can I get in?" And they're like, "No, they're like the tank wants a mage or something like that." And I just want to say that buyer beware because people who meta classes, this is a pet theory of mine. They get taken into keys, they get carried, they do bad, they don't know their shit, they get points because the rest of them carry them. So they have artificially high IOs sometimes. So if you're only getting meta people, like you might run into people who don't know what they're doing more often. Now,
Because
you
they're
bring a
bottom
survival
chasers.
hunter. Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
They're bottom chasers. Yeah. Now, I would encourage people to try more balanced druids, more survival hunters, more what else is at the bottom? Destro warlocks. I don't know.
Fucking
Like
priests. I don't play with any priests.
Priest, I just
So-
did a key. Hold on, I just did a necrotic wave with the priest. We won phase Stitch Flesh because of a single
we did
target
too.
damage. It
We
was
did
so
too.
Yeah.
awesome. So yeah, please try out like inviting some of these other classes because
What
if
class priest?
somebody
A shadow priest?
Shadow
Shadow.
Priest,
Yeah.
I want to
Yeah.
remind
Hopper.
Scrap that Shadow Priests were always on our D tier whenever
Are
we
they
did
a melee
Potos.
class?
No,
No,
they're
they're
a
not.
range
I
class.
will-
I don't play
yeah.
with them.
But
I'm
let me
with
let me
Scrap.
just put a cap on this. Is that like if there's a Shadow Priest that has 2,500 plus, they have worked for it. They did not get carried to it. Like they know what they're doing. Probably. So try bringing in some of those non-meta people. It's if somebody whispers you and they seem personable, like hey, let them in, let them in. That's my
Yeah, I will-
soapbox.
Scrap's comment about Shadow. We did a necrotic wake with a Shadow the other day, and it pumps single target. And like
Yeah.
you don't need there was me and a Shadow and like some other AoE spec, and like with the amount of AoE damage I'm gonna do, you don't need someone like insanely doing a ton of AoE. If you bring someone that'll pump single target,
One
is
frost
great
dead
for
knight is all
boss.
the AoE you need.
See,
Yeah,
technique,
one
you
rep
gotta get
pally.
off the Death Knight thing. But Death
Yeah.
Knights are good. Death
Hey,
Knights have a lot of control. It's great.
yeah,
Until
yeah.
somebody slappy hands
Heck.
that third boss of Grim Patrol, and then you want to kill them.
Hey Tech, let me go in a key
Yeah.
with you and your best frost DK, and we'll see how it goes.
Oh no, I don't care about the DPS, man. Like for me as a tank, there's so many dungeons where you just have to have one to pull in these casters that just nonstop cast. Like if you're in
Nick, if you ran with like a mage and a warlock, they would have range kicks and they would just walk in. You don't need somebody to pull it in.
yeah,
you
but
just
that
don't
means
run
I
with
have
people
to
with
then
range kicks.
charge to it and get enough threat that I can keep it while I'm doing everything else.
You'll
So
be
anyway, just
fine.
having the yanks and having the pulls, so good. It's so good. If you're a tank, you might understand. I'm sure Frank understands. But like let's talk about the casting spiders in like Arakara.
Well, hold on. Hold on.
With casting spiders.
We'll get into the
We're gonna-
dungeons specifically in a second.
On the way to the first boss.
Dude,
But
Frank has
anyway.
got a hard task to rein us in because we have 3 weeks of wanting to talk about shit.
Well, and not only that, but
Okay.
like there's so much not controversy,
so much to talk about.
contention with this season. I want to
Yeah.
build up into this like overall question for y'all. Okay. So first things first, I want to say that like Scrap, you say you're not getting into keys. I'm an arcane mage. I
Yeah.
was, theoretically at least, the meta that people would be like, oh, arcane mage, get him. But as you pointed out, because there's so many arcane mages who don't know how to play arcane because they're bottom chasers,
Yeah, they don't
I'm
want
not
arcane
getting
mages.
invited into.
I guess mostly your
dungeons.
character name
The
choice.
pendulum swings back.
Um, So it's not been any easier for me to get into keys, in my experience.
No, I want to not to throw you guys under the bus, but I don't want to hear it from either of you about struggling to get into keys because like if the arcane
Miss,
mage and
I'm
the
on the
Ret
top of the
Pally
IO
are
over here.
not getting into keys. No, but I'm telling you it's hard, and I'm like messaging people, and I'm messaging our healers and our tanks. Like most of the keys I've gotten, I've like with IO or with pleb or something. I just say like, hey, help me pug into keys, please. I need help pugging into keys. Like I can't do it by myself.
Scrap wants to make a contest about having the hardest time getting into dungeons. It's like
It's a victim contest, and
I'll
dude,
give you
I
all
would
the
say
pity
Scrap.
you need. What do
You know
It's so
what though?
hard.
In
Okay.
a sense, though, Scrap I feel has had an easier time because
go on.
you
Then.
are going with a tank or a healer. Where I'm in that regard, I'm not saying singularly. I'm just saying
Yeah.
if you go with IO pleb and try to get
Yeah.
in a key, you're going to get into a key a lot easier
Yeah.
than
Well,
Frank
Shani,
or
I
I
will say
trying to singularly
doing
get into a
both.
key.
In fact, I'm doing
Yeah.
everything. I'm pugging my
I
own
know.
key. I'm straight pugging.
I
I'm
know.
going
You
with
don't go to
friends.
bed.
I'm going with no friends. Like I've just done a lot of fucking keys this week, man.
Yeah.
That's really what it comes
and
down
I
to.
also feel like you have more success at the later evening because like the West Coast is playing at that point too. And I don't know why,
usually
but
later
like
at night.
I just have
yeah.
better luck at that, the witching hour for the West Coast and all that. But anyways,
I tend to also.
yeah.
Wait, hold on. I had a point. Is that I wanted to say that listen, there's an arcane mage and a Ret Pally complaining about it. It's an all DPS
Yes,
problem.
absolutely.
Even the meta people are struggling to get into keys. So don't feel bad if you're having a really, really hard time getting into keys that you've already timed. It's so frustrating for everybody. Like as people push higher, or give up, there will be less people in the pugging atmosphere. You're going to get into keys later. It's just the beginning of the season. It's really hard. And there's always pug in your own key. It can suck, tank leaves right at the beginning. You feel like you're starting back at square one, but like you always have that available to you. It's just chill. There's plenty
Okay.
of time in the season. You're gonna be fine.
I want to make sure we don't have a 2-hour episode, so I'm going to keep us moving. Okay.
Yeah.
Now I have a question for y'all.
Good.
I have a question for y'all that will be a like a kind of easy answer. Short answer, but not maybe easy to answer. But I want to point out, like for example, Scrap, you called the Beastmaster out right here. It is
Yeah, that's
unfair
really
to
sad.
sometimes, but it's unfair to look at this sometimes though, because what happens is that all these hunters funnel into marksman, or all these mages funnel into arcane, and then
Yeah,
don't
that's
play. And so like there's that random 3 or 4 people who are still sticking to, because like look, 91 people have ran as Beastmaster, which is one of the lowest. And
Yeah.
so yeah, like they're just not like, they're not representing Beastmaster well. We've seen this time and time again where we see like, one of the warlock specs that's doing poorly, and then they come in and all of a sudden they're doing really well because the person who's playing it is playing it really well. So if there's a message to take away from any of this is, if you have someone who knows how to play their class well, it's fine. They will do well enough that you can time your 10s, no problem, and even beyond that. But take a look at this real quick. So I want you to look at the data, right? So we got like the highest performing right now is Frost Death Knight at 1.6 mil. With the I'm gonna keep I guess this is 1.2 mil for the lowest with Subtlety Rogue, and the average being 1.2 versus 1.0. Okay, and then the raid damage. So our means start around, let's call it between 67% and 74%, 75 maybe, right? No, 77, sorry, 77, 64 to 77% mean average discrepancy between the top. Actually, I'm not even gonna count AUG. Okay, 67 to 74.
They don't count AUG, it throws a wrench in everything.
Okay, between the top performing. Is this balanced to you? And I'm not gonna say yes or no, like give it a letter grade, A, B, C, D, F. So here's raid again. Is this balanced enough for you? And by all means, that isn't to say you wouldn't say there could be more to get done, but give it a letter grade. Is this balanced? So there's raid again.
I'll give it. I want to give it a B because I really feel like at least the level we're playing at, where we're 10s pushing into 11s, not 12s though. 12s are like apparently all kinds of broken and messed up right now. You can really bring just about anyone, because I think the difference between 1 million and 1.2 million is not what's going to make or break the key. It's not using your defensives. It's kicking at the right time. It's not backing into stuff. Like if you're doing all that stuff well and you're staying above the 1 million overall mark, the key should get timed, like in my opinion. What do you think, Frank?
Well, I'm gonna leave it up to Technique first.
Yeah, let's hear what they.
I'll go back to the other grid.
The raid one.
I think it's as far as raid, I think everybody's doing really well in raid, and like you said about our balanced druid, who's 6th, 7th from the bottom, dude. It's balanced enough that a good balanced druid can be number 1 consistently in our raid. I'm fine with it.
The everyday raid.
Yeah. And that's, I think, really where their target audience should be, is players like us who are not not just questing all day, but also not like pushing for world first. Like we're, I would say, average, above average players.
AOTC is kind of like you're a good player. You're definitely above average, but you're like, it's what everyone's striving for, I think. If you raid.
So, yeah, it would be different if like, Augmentation Evoker was like, shifted way to the left, or if this skew was like a big fucking tilt, and it's not. It's a mostly straight line. I think it's pretty good.
So what's your letter grade?
I'll give it a as far as like Blizzard's ability to balance the game
the developers,
and do a good job,
the developers' job. How well have they done it?
Give them an A.
Okay,
straight A's.
Oh, okay. Shawnee?
It's an A. Easy.
Okay.
I've always thought it was an A because I've always thought when you look at it, typically from like bottom to top, it isn't such a large gap that's like technique. Someone good, as long as you're good at it, you're going to be close. It's like, yeah, I've never found it to be like this class comes in and does no damage consistently.
Yeah.
It's like people that are not that good playing a class can do bad. Like I've seen plenty of Death Knights that have come into keys, and I'm just like, where's their DPS?
Yeah, I forgot to mention that too. That I've seen Death Knight just straddling the tank more often than anybody else.
The most egregious.
Yeah, most egregious.
Yeah, like mages, Death Knights. I've seen some of the more top stuff come in. I mean, out of all the rogues, I've seen Outlaw's been the best in keys. So, yeah, I don't think that any of them are like. Yeah, I give it an A for balance just because I don't think anything's like far and above something else where I'm like, oh god, yeah, like this is super unfair. Or, the only place I feel it's not balanced is just Resto Druids seem like all the ones I played with have struggled.
The healer scene's definitely different on the balance. Like I gotta say, we're looking like there was some scorecard someone pulled up earlier this week, and it was like shamans are making up like 25% of the scene as far as like healing
Yeah.
goes. And
Well,
that's
it's here.
a
So
lot.
here's where it stands right now. Let me So right now they are 51% of all healers.
I believe
That's
it.
crazy.
Now again, this is
Especially
the
this
top
week.
2,000 keys. Top 2,000.
Well, that's,
There's-
is that for
there's-
this week, Frank? Because they deal
Yes,
with the
that's this week.
affects like
That's this week.
like this. So
But you can see last week it was even worse, 77%.
And look at like
Yeesh.
Prot Warriors are filling a big gap
so-
there this season, which I'm happy to do.
So I want to point out though, because like if I remember correctly, when we were looking at that Reddit post, the number of keys run in a season was like in the hundreds of thousands. So over the course of a 12-week, like that top 2,000 keys of, let's just call it 20,000 a week, which may be not generous enough. I don't know.
low.
Like
yeah.
we're looking at the top
A lot more than
percentiles, right? And so like this isn't fair. What I want to call out is we're gonna have to talk about the healing and tanking thing, because I don't think this is a DPS balance problem. So this is my letter grade, right? The DPS aren't the problem right now. The damage they do is good. I think anyone is viable. Now there is an argument to be made about defensives, right? Because like, for example, warlocks and now I'd argue hunters, you may not agree, Scrap, but like the defensive choices you have are fairly straightforward and easy to use, right?
I agree with that. Yeah. mine are super
And I
easy.
explained to you how alter time works, and you just said fuck you, and I never want to play mage, right?
I was like, I would never be able to do that right.
Right? Like
there's no
Shawnee,
way.
you just have a lot of bubbles at your disposal, right? There's no like,
Yep.
it's just the skill is just choosing when to use it, but other than that, it's done.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, when to use
I
it in
would
time
say
cooldowns. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
pretty- I love my defense. It's part of the reason I play Ret.
Yeah, no, I
Speaking of
totally get that.
defensives,
for me, I have a
gotta-
whole
Well,
array
hold
of
on. Let me finish.
defenses.
Let me finish.
Yeah, finish your point.
So,
Okay,
like,
yeah.
the problem isn't the damage output; it's the defenses. But even then, most of the classes out there, where we really get into a problem is the balancing around this new affix system, and by that I mean mostly the tyrannical and fortified stacking, and then the stacking on top of that. We haven't seen this personally because we haven't done 12s yet, and
Yeah.
it's reflected in the number of keys done and how highest keys done, which we will get to, but. It's not like the tanks for the most part all feel like they're viable. Everyone I've run with, there've been bad ones, but there've been great ones too, right? The healers, on the other hand, I'm finding that I like monks and shamans I feel confident in, but I don't really feel confident in the others. Now, that isn't to say there aren't good ones out there. I want to be clear on that, right? But I'm panning over the paladins, the rest of those druids for sure now. And I'm like, I know Prez is really good in raid. They just got nerfed, and I'm not sure how good they are in keys. Based on this representation, it's probably not that good. But yeah,
I've had
that's
a
the
couple
balance problems.
really good
Yeah,
healing.
I would say
workers.
every prez I've run with has been really good.
But-
and I've definitely had some good holy pally runs too.
But my point being though, and again, based on this representation of the specs, I have to knock a couple letter grades off for how bad the healer,
That's
and I'd
fair.
even argue
agree.
tank specs too, with prop paladin, for example. They just, like, it's a B plus for me. No, C plus, I'd say C plus for me, right?
Oh, even
because-
worse, yeah.
That, I mean, yeah, that's a
Because
fair,
here's the thing, it's so critical for those guys to be good, right? And by
Because we
good I
want
mean
them to play the game.
the toolkit, right? Yeah, and on top of that,
Yeah.
like they slow us
We
down
want
when getting
healers.
keys.
Even with good, like I can't tell you how many times my damn. I was gonna say earlier, speaking of defenses, when you were talking about defenses, like if you go to wowhead.com, they don't even recommend for Mythic Plus that you take Battle Scarred Veteran as a prot warrior. But if you look at any of the top prot warriors, everyone's
So like
got
more
it.
like IO.
Yeah, everyone is using it, and I can't tell you. It fucking goes off like 10 times a run, dude. Literally every
Just
3 minutes.
tell us what it does for
It's-
those who don't know.
When you dip below 30, if you take damage, it takes you below 30% health. It pops and makes you take additional healing. It's basically a cheat death, and it's a huge lifesaver. And
Yeah.
it's going off all the fucking time. I can't imagine not having it. Like I just would not time so many more keys.
Okay.
So
Let's shift gears here for a second then.
Yep.
And talk about the tank / healing / changes to the structure of Mythic Plus. So I'll start with the tank changes. if you guys remember, and I don't know if we actually read this out on the podcast, but they made a blue post talking about how in beta they drastically overhauled how tanks were going to be able to be sustainable and tanky. And they called out, I'm not going to quote them, and I'm sorry if I'm like very poorly paraphrasing, but they essentially said they want to make sure tanks don't feel like they can get one shot easily. They want tanks to be getting hurt, but that they like don't just dip all over the place, that they kind of slowly deteriorate and it takes a lot of work to get them back up, kind of thing. Those were the essential points. They wanted to make sure that there was no kiting meta. And part of that was also changes to healing, because they do this, I think, every start of expansion. They want healing to feel not so, and this was a complaint of Dragonflight especially, where everything's just a one-shot mechanic and instead it's like a very intensive healing scenario for the healers. So I wanna start with that. Do you guys feel like they were successful in that? And Technique, you can kick us off being the resident tank.
Yeah, man. Like I said earlier, like as soon as you push into like 9 and 10 keys as a tank, you really do need to focus on and it's not just every tank. Every tank's route is going to be slightly different. What they can pull, when they can pull it, type of thing. I've had a couple of keys where people are like pulling shit for me, and I'm like, bro, I'm not a fucking Death Knight, or I'm not a fucking Demon Hunter. But anyway, it's like, yeah, it's much more. You got to be much more aware of your cooldowns, your defensives, all of it. And I much prefer it. Now I'm still doing really high damage. I'm not sure that they quite hit the mark.
That was a different.
We want tanks to be like tanky and not necessarily like doing damage. I like doing damage, and once again we're doing high damage. So, but definitely, like I feel like I couldn't just survive a fight by myself like we used to.
Okay, Johnny.
From what I've seen, tanks can definitely get one shot. Still a fair bit going into big pools and
stuff.
stuff.
A lot of tank busters.
Not even big pools, just like a millisecond into the pool, they're dead.
Yeah.
The second the
Yeah,
pull
yeah,
happens.
I've seen-
They can't even like get up their defensives. It's crazy.
Yeah, I've seen a lot
were
of
doing our
tanks just go,
Dawnbreaker.
That's where it's most
Dawnbreaker.
risky, is when you like make a pull. That's the riskiest moment right now. Is like everything just slaps you.
And
So-
I've seen a lot of tanks just fall over, and they're
We've
like, "Oh
seen-
crap, I didn't have this up or that up."
And there's not a lot of healers that have like a preempt, other than like a priest with a bubble. There's not a lot of healers that have any
Bubble
sort
does
of
nothing.
Right. So not a lot of healers have like an external cooldown. Like
Yeah,
you can't just
monks
pop.
have Zen, but like that.
Yeah.
Even then, I've seen it both happen to Lithian and Pleb. And granted, they're bears. Bears
They're
are
both
supposed to
bears,
be these
yeah.
huge sponges, right? That's like their tank niche. And again, like I'm not joking when I say it's like, all right, here we go, and he's dead. Right, like
Instantly.
literally walking in and just like wiped off the face of the earth.
Yeah.
That a monk wouldn't be able to react with the Zen anyways, or
I'm
whatever the
popping
bubble is.
shield wall a lot.
Which
A
I think
lot.
that part of it's good, right? But it's a little concerning. Now, asterisks, we are still 20-ish eye levels off from the cap, right? So there's still room to grow. We will get into gearing later if we have time.
No.
But yeah, I mean, Scrap, you didn't have a chance to talk on this. Do you feel differently than Shawnee?
About tanks getting deleted?
Just the changes they made to the tanking / healing gameplay.
Where I know that it's becoming a huge problem is in 12, which we haven't experienced. I mean, we've only gone up to 11, but with 12s, everything gets a 20% damage up. And there's even a website now that you can put in your character and find out, will this mechanic one-shot me?
That website's existed forever.
Oh, it has? I
Yeah.
didn't know about it.
It was just in play at like the level 20 keys, right? Like back in the day.
Yeah, right.
Because we never played in
I
that
think
space either. Or well,
there
whatever.
generally shouldn't be mechanics that one-shot tanks. I don't know. Like it's just kind of crazy. It puts so much pressure on the tank and the healer, who are people that we want there to be more of and to play the game, and their jobs are already really hard. Like a tank is like managing the route and the flow of the dungeon, and it just puts so much pressure on them. And if the tank dies, it's like, oh, the pull is wiped, and on tight keys like Necrotic Wake and stuff, a lot of times one wipe that's it.
That's a good transition to the changes to Mythic Plus and the affixes
Oh yeah, I
system.
already talked about the affixes. Oh my god.
So we won't talk about the actual level 2 affixes just yet. I want to talk about just the overall philosophy they have for the change, okay? Level 7, deaths become 15 seconds instead of 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Level 10, fortified and tyrannical stack no matter what. And then level 12, which we haven't seen yet, but we've heard, is absolutely a wall because they now also double the double, right? The fortified and tyrannical double.
Yeah.
So the question I have is, do you guys believe, like, because right now the highest keys are being done, I think, are 14s. Do you guys believe that it's good to have a wall that even the best players can't get past because the mob will kill the tank in one shot? Do you think that's healthy for the game to have like that wall?
I mean, I have a bit of opinion about it. I think it's frustrating for players because it's like you can be a really, really good player and like 11s feel too easy. You know, like there's gonna be a point where 11s are gonna feel too easy, but 12s will still feel too hard, and there's not gonna be a middle ground. In its current state.
That could happen
I
even
don't
with
think that's
8s
healthy
and
for the game.
9s, right? For the not so great players,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
A big part of the argument
suppose
right
so.
now is that there's like the accordion is that like it's not even, right? So as
Yeah.
things spread out, everything's getting truncated at 8s, 10s, and 12s, for example, right? Because
Yeah.
moving from an 8 to a 9 is, you know, a significant jump.
It almost feels like the numbers are arbitrary because like the difference between like a 5 and a 6 and then an 11 and a 12, it's like it's a whole
Well,
fucking different ball
8 to
game.
9 is
11
a
to 12.
different reward gap, though. Like 8 to 9, you start getting different crests and different levels of loot. I feel
That's
like
a good point, and you
that
don't get
should be a
shit
jump.
for 12s. So why is there such a big wall there?
It's at that point, it's just the
Because of the
unwritten, it's
leaderboard.
the clout.
Yeah.
It's the clout.
Right.
You gotta measure it somehow, and at some point, people are gonna start dying. Like, I mean, you got to draw the line somewhere. I don't agree with 20%,
Yeah, that's
increase
20
on both pages. That's
Do you think
wild.
they'll nerf it or no?
Yeah, I
You
think they
they're
will.
holding
I
firm
thought
on
they
it?
would. I thought they would have done it this week if they did. I don't think they'll
Yeah.
change anything until season 2.
That, or you're gonna see like a significant. I mean, you got this new raid coming. You're gonna see like an eye level increase possibly, or what's missing right now, in my opinion, on at least for a tank perspective, there are no good trinkets that are like phenomenal defensive trinkets.
Yeah.
Nothing that can kind of aid you if that's the way you want to play, which is kind of I think what they said they want us to do.
That's actually a
Tanky.
really good point, Technique.
There's like no right now, and it's season 1, but there's just nothing that's like, oh, I gotta have that trinket to tank.
They were gun shy because of those trinkets that would be cheat death trinkets, right? The ones that like if you got killed, you'd be bounced back to 50% health or whatever, or the healing absorb of 50% health. They I think got gun shy because all the DPS and everyone was trying to use that. So like, okay, we're not gonna make one this season so that people don't get like tempted. But then they made all these other changes that they didn't factor in. And to your point, like there's no amazing trinket like that to help the one time it happens to Pleb or Lithium where they make the pull and something just goes wrong.
Like you run in and you pop a little absorb shield to take that couple of first hits to make it not so brutal.
Yeah.
You don't have that anymore.
So let's talk about in detail, like the level 7 one is 5 to 15 seconds. What do you guys think of that one?
I love that one. That's just me though.
Really?
Yes.
I think it should be punishing to die.
I think it's fair. It's very fair,
Scrap, but like that further promotes the problem of pugs that if a wipe happens, you've just lost 1 minute and 5 seconds.
Yeah, the you know what? The wipes are very frustrating, and the differences between the keys where some timers are super cushy and some are super tight, I think could be, a little bit edited, right? But I like that, if like every other pull somebody's just getting hit by a frontal, that's punishing. Like you shouldn't be doing that because I feel like there's always been this kind of like not a wall, but like a shift when you start getting above 20 or in this case above 10, where all of a sudden people dying is going to be the difference between the key time and not necessarily wipe, but if people are just casually dying to shit, like, the margin gets so much thinner as it gets more difficult, that there should be punishment for people playing sloppy,
But do you think it's fair that the punishment is also ramping up? Like, for example, missing one kick could be the reason why you die?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, the idea is that you want to play more and more perfectly, right? And I think that encourages perfect play more than.
But you guys just said that you thought the compounding 20% at level 12 is a problem, but now you've got a compound.
Yeah,
but you got the exact same premise here. You've
I
got
feel
a
like you
compounding
play-
spell effect that is going up in 20% now at level 10 and going up in 20% again at level 12. Missing one kick now also punishes you 300% more time at level 7.
I feel like it encourages good play, right? Because it's like you die to that, you missed a key by 10 seconds. We did that this week. That sucked. Like you're gonna definitely kick next time. Like
You don't
think
scrap.
punishing is good.
What are you
I don't know what
talking
the numbers
about?
look like, Frank. I don't know what the numbers look like as far as like community contribution to these different like levels of keys, but not everyone is going to be a fucking NASCAR driver. You know,
Oh,
not
I agree with
everyone
that.
is
I
gonna be an
agree with
NBA
that.
player.
Yeah.
I agree
Like,
with that.
If you want to go and do these big boy keys, like you're gonna have to
NASCAR.
communicate with others and have friends to play with, like people to play with that can communicate and play as a team. And I think Shawnee was trying to chime in and say something. Or
Yeah, let's hear it.
Oh, sorry. I wanted to hear you.
It's difficult because I definitely think I'm okay with the idea of a wall eventually happening. Because like Technique always says, it is cool to say if you play out of your mind and you get this like level that no one has. So the idea that 14s now are super difficult and like the highest makes sense because old wise that would be like 25 or 30 range. So like yeah, I get why they're trying to bring it back down so we aren't doing like plus 25. I also think that Frank's right because when he's saying if you miss one key, like one kick, like I would prefer that the dungeons all have a built-in thing saying like we'll give you like a 2.5 minute cushion. So if you wipe twice in a whole dungeon, your key's like ditched. But otherwise, like one kick ruining it is tricky. And I think overall, all this does, it does, in my mind, make it harder. It makes it harder to pug because if you get in a key and say like 4 of you are in
Oh, I think you dropped out.
reason turn like
no, it's-
frontal on you necrotic wake and it kills you. Like you can do nothing about that and that wipes your group. So I definitely feel as they make them more difficult, it does make it harder to pug where it makes you all need to be in Discord, which not everyone wants to do, yada yada yada. But I don't
So this was recommended on the Bench podcast. And they said, well, we don't mind the idea of like it becoming increasingly more punishing because obviously there's like those pulls where someone's getting one shot by a kick and then they run back and they get one shot by not kicking again. Like they just keep feeding that machine, right? But at the same time, to Shawnee's point, right? Like there should be a little bit of a grace to these are very hard. And so what they recommended was something along the lines of like, okay, maybe you get like 5 deaths for free at first. And then they start punishing you, right? Like, okay, now 6 is going to be 15 seconds and maybe even gets exponential. 7 is 20 seconds. 8 is 25 seconds, right? Like,
I like that.
Yeah.
But I will say you wish there was more grace, like if there was like a 2.5 minute buffer for these keys. And
you could
you've
do that
also
too.
mentioned Frank. Well, you mentioned that we're also 20 eye levels from the cap. So they're thinking people as they gear up more, at 10s, like maybe one wipe won't be the death of most 10 keys when everybody's geared out to the teeth.
I have to admit,
each player's first death is not punished.
Yeah, that was another recommendation. Yeah,
everybody's first death is not punished. You get one.
Yeah. And if that way, if the group wipes because the tank did something stupid or someone butt pulled, like you don't get a big fucking 5-minute delay or whatever.
Yeah, you know what? At 12, you get rid of that. Like that's fine. I like that.
So, the problem with curating this episode today is there's so many questions we have to answer about just this
Let's
one.
Move to the next one.
Because the question I want to ask is it
one
good
from the other, Frank.
that it's this hard? Is it good that they squashed everyone
it's not
down?
Even that hard.
No, I will say it's week 3 and we've already got all our 10s timed.
I think
like most of us have like a lot of 10s timed.
I'm going to show you why it is hard in just a second with the data.
Well, sure. I mean, it's not like it's easy. I actually love the difficulty that we're having right now, but I think that
I didn't say it was bad. I'm just saying, is it good for the game?
I like that I don't have to fuck with like, oh, is it trash week? Is it boss week?
I agree.
I like that I don't have to look at like my different score for each week and it's just one number.
Irrelevant.
I like that.
Why is
it irrelevant?
We're talking about affixes.
No, we're talking about difficulty. I just asked.
This is part of the difficulty.
What, that you had to look at an IO score and see,
it's difficult for him to see triangular fortified week.
How difficult is it to climb my IO? Like it's I don't have to, push on trash weeks and not play on tyrannical weeks, or vice versa. Anyway, it's not irrelevant. But what was the other thing I was gonna say? God damn it, Frank.
So you're saying it's hard
Derailed
because
you.
now you don't have to worry about tyrannical week versus fortified week.
No. I like these things. I think
again-
as far as like particular difficulty, I think the jump from 11 to 12 is insane. I
Okay.
think they should maybe start with like a.
I will ask the
8%
question
increase.
again. Is it good for the game that it's this difficult?
It's not difficult, man. Everyone here is 24, 2500.
You can't time an 11 or 12 right now, can you?
I'm not in the top 1%.
You
Well, yeah,
are.
I
You're
could time
in the
it
top.
11.
You're in the
I could
top
time- I could time
3%.
at 11.
You probably
I could
could.
time at
But
11.
my point is, could you time 12?
No, I don't think there's but like 30 people in the world right now that are timing 12.
And yet, this time in any other expansion, there'd be
it's
people
just
timing.
a different number, bro. I mean, it's
No-
like a 22 or whatever. It's just a
I
different
agree
number.
with Nick on that. Before we take a second, is that like there's only gonna be a point where every single person is gonna hit a wall where they're like, "Fuck, this is hard," and it doesn't
Okay.
really matter what number that's at for me.
Okay, hold on.
The only thing I
You
don't like about
still-
the 11 to 12 is that that you can be absolutely bored to tears by an 11 and still not able to do it 12.
All right.
Like it's too big
Right.
of a difference.
I'm
That
going to
jump's
say
too
this
big.
again. We can time 10s. Okay. We are right now sitting in within 100 points, I think it is, maybe 150 points of the top 0.1% of WoW players.
Yeah, and we suck. So
We don't suck. I'd argue exactly the opposite. We don't suck, right? We are lucky. We are one of the. In fact, if you look at our guild roster right now, who have a lot of great players in, the
We really
four of
do.
us, as well as Phoenix, so 5 total, are the only ones to have crossed 2400, which is the 10s, right? So
Yeah, but not everybody has no life like we do.
what are you talking about? Technique has already told us that he can't be on. I haven't been able to play a ton because of
I literally
everything.
climbed like 150 points today.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
a tank. That's what I'm saying. You should. It's
Oh,
not
for
fair.
fuck's sake.
Okay.
All right. I want to reiterate because while we have been doing really well, we're also being super competitive. And I'd like to point
Yeah.
out, we haven't all timed all our 10s yet, right? I don't think there's a single
Yeah.
one of us that's done all 10s yet. You're
But I
close,
think
Scrap.
the difference between this and that is the time. Like any of us could time any 10.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, but everyone else is having a hard time. Right? And
Okay.
and
Well,
Scrap,
We're also
we
geared to the mega teeth. Like, are they geared? I don't know.
yes, they are. Yeah, they
Oh,
are.
okay.
Yeah. Because okay,
I think.
uh,
I was gonna say.
well, truncate real quick. I'm just going to add something to this and then you can go, Shadi. On
Yeah.
top of that, because of delves, everyone has been like the tide has been rising for everyone to get gear easier, right? Because they can all get hero track gear from the delves. So we're also seeing a ton of people again bottlenecking into these 8s who go, "Oh, I've got the gear, I can do this," and it's way
That's
too hard
true.
for them that they can't get past that gate. Shawnee, I'm sorry.
I think a part of the reason we're doing well is we also are mostly in Discord when we play together. And the keys we've done the best on have definitely been at least like 3 of us in Discord for the most part. I think people struggling are probably also not in Discord all the time. Can't say all of them, but yeah, it's definitely a challenge. I would say the keys are harder than they've ever been, I feel. But it's 3 weeks in, so I'll see how I feel in 3 more weeks.
And I want to
Yeah,
be
3 weeks in.
I want to be clear. I love how hard they are. But I also haven't done a 12 yet, and I might change my tune very quickly then.
Well, the 11 we did yesterday was so fucking hard. Like, the
Yeah, but that's because we
Dawnbreaker.
played like fucking ass.
I know we did play like ass, but it was also hard.
I mean, there was a
think they're
good
like-
10-minute section there where Lithian was murdering Musham over and over and over
That's
again.
true. That's true. Well, I want to say what you were kind of starting to hit on is that like people get the gear that's heroic, that's appropriate for 8s. They go into the dungeon and they don't know the mechanics. And I think it's always been true, but truer more than ever now that at 10 you have fortified and tyrannical. So every mechanic on every mob, every boss is critical. You need to know the dungeons. Knowing the dungeons is it's the make or break point. Like you can do a million DPS, you get hit by a frontal, you're gonna die, you're gonna cost 15 seconds off the timer, you're gonna be walking back. A necrotic wake, the key's dead. Like
I'm gonna pull real quick. I want you guys to make a prediction, and then I'm gonna ask you to grade the difficulty. So, 3688 was the season title cutoff for for season 3 of Dragonflight. Okay, 3688. Where do you think the season cutoff number will be at the end of this season? That's what I want you to predict right now.
31.
31.
Like,
so you
I
guys,
think
all
it's-
three, just
what's
argued that it's
in the
not. Well,
current
Technique
state?
mostly argued it's not more difficult, and yet you just shaved
Well,
over
okay,
20% off the score.
Hold on. It's hard to say because when they squish the dungeons down, it changes everything. Like there's seasons where, like in season 3, I had no problem getting 3K, but the season previous, it was like a lot harder. You know, I don't know. I think every season, the difficulty has shifted a little bit. I think this one, especially with the new affix breakdown, I think 3K is going to be a slog.
Yeah, so to get 3K, you need to do all 13s and also have a couple 14s. We were like adding
Two
up
of them,
the
yeah.
score.
Yeah.
I don't
So
know
you
if I'm
need like
doing
2
3K this
14s
season.
and all 13s. So
The cutoff,
It's too
the
hard.
cutoff right now is 2,700. It's 900 points away. Now, granted, again, that's very early in the season, but
Yeah.
But you predicted that it's only going to rise 400 more points when it should be rising 900 if numbers ran the same way. And to give you also some context, Keystone Hero, which is 2,500. Okay, we except for Shiny, very close, but we all for the most part have hit it. Take a guess at what percent of players.
low. It's super
so
low.
in season 3 of Dragonflight, it was 16.5% of players hit it by the end of the season. Okay, what do you think?
Is that low?
Oh, it's actually changed. So, what percent of players are at all 11s? Let's say that. What percent of players are
All
all 11s?
11s?
Yeah.
Oh, 0.05%.
2%.
Like 2%.
0.07%. Right?
Yeah.
What about
I
at
don't know
all
anybody who
10s?
is.
All
I'm gonna
10s?
say 5%.
Yeah, 5%.
Like
2.5. Okay. Now
Okay.
that is where 16% of people would theoretically finish at the end of the season, as if it was the same season. Now again, scores are going to be entirely different because of the squish. I know that, but
Yeah.
I would
it is
I
also
think
different because it's harder, right?
I think 20 more eye level in like a whole season. I think you'll see the number grow. I think
You will,
it'll,
but yeah, you will.
Do you
I
think
it'll
you
be
guys will hit
closer than you
3,000?
think. Yeah,
I'm not fucking hitting 3K. This is fucking slog.
I'm sold out so much on trying to hit 3K this season, dude.
Good.
I would like
I
to
didn't-
get all 12s done. That's my goal, and I think it's attainable.
Okay.
But I can see it being frustrating if they don't nerf it in its current state.
Well, let's move on then. I will close this section with a question for you, and again, this is also including whether you like it or not. The difficulty of season 1 Mythic Dungeons. Give it a letter grade.
B?
Okay, Shawnee's giving it a
Yeah.
B. Scrap.
I'll give it a oh.
Well,
I mean,
sorry.
I would give it an A, but I haven't seen a 12 and how egregious it is. Hearing how
You can put an
12s
asterisk on it. I'm gonna put an asterisk on mine.
Asterisk with it, because to me hitting 3K is like, it's just a fucking number. You don't even get anything for hitting 3K. You get nothing. You get to type in your thing next season, 3K last season. That's the only thing that you get from it. So it doesn't mean anything to me. I like pushing at what's difficult for me, but not too frustrating that I don't want to ever play again. So I like doing 10s and 11s right now. I think it's fun. I think it's satisfying to play well, to get that timer. It's like really good. A asterisk 12s might be the death of me.
Technique. I'm sorry, you were telling us.
I mean, I was gonna give it an A. I really appreciate the difficulty, and I don't feel like there's any sort of like impossible thing. You know, like obviously we're not max geared yet. Like I said earlier, we don't have great trinket options as tanks, so that is a really scary moment when you like charge in and your healer's like, "Wait a fucking second," and you take a couple of hits and you're like 20%.
That sounded just like your
Um,
brother. Good
yeah.
impression.
But yeah, I mean, I'm enjoying it a lot, and that'll probably the enjoyment will tone down, like Scrap was saying. Like as soon as you start farming 11s and you're ready to push 12s, and you're like, oh, this is dog shit.
Yeah.
So
I'll be moving on with life.
that's where Twitter comes in and the discourse that's happening on there, because people who are doing 11s and 12s and 10s as well are saying that it's miserable and they don't like how difficult it is. I'm with you guys. I think it's an A. I'd even say like an A plus. Now again, I haven't tried a 12 yet. I'm also feeling like, though, I need another maybe 10 levels on eye level to say I feel confident that that's where I belong anyways. But I think the four of us all agree this is good. This is like, we enjoy it, and it's good for the game, in my opinion, because I do feel like bringing the people who are doing 24s last season back down to 17s makes it feel like it's still within range, even though it's not.
It feels more attainable. It's like your score's only 40 higher than me, but it's like I will never get that.
But this is a huge contention for a lot of people right now. And I'm just happy to hear that we all are enjoying it. So that's good. Okay. Let's also talk, while we're on the topic of affixes, about the 4 affixes from Xalatath. Okay.
Oh no, this podcast is gonna be 3 hours long.
No, it's not. We're gonna try to move quickly through these. All right.
No,
so,
I can't.
The first one was the displacement one, the 10 orbs that spawn, and you gotta dragon breath them or nova them up or whatever.
I found
good
that
or bad.
one good.
Right. And by the way, what you get with it is you got the what was it? What's the
haste
buff you
buff,
got?
maybe?
Was it haste? Yes, haste buff. So good or bad?
Good.
And sorry, factor in what you think about this. Factor in sorry, go on.
I was gonna say the reason I think is good because most classes, maybe not all, but most, and even some, I didn't think could deal with it relatively well. I didn't get into a key where no one can deal with this. Like
I
thought it was good in the sense that like most classes could deal with the affix that I seen. There might be some that can't. I don't know.
Well,
but like,
that's what I want you to factor, though. I want you to factor that there were some bosses where you couldn't get to them, all those kind of pain points.
Overall, I think it was good. The balls overall. I'm not gonna say because none of them were perfect.
I will say when we did this affix, we were pushing to around 8s. So, and I've noticed in 10s a lot, like my implosive trap is on cooldown constantly. Like, for example, I was running Necrotic Wake a ton to try to get a bunch of points before the podcast so I could rub it in Frank's face. But like the first couple packs of Necrotic Wake, there's those guys who like throw flesh or whatever. And it's like having stuns constantly on those guys was necessary because if 2 people get flesh thrown on them or one person gets it twice, they're going to die. So in the 8s, it wasn't as important for us to constantly have mobs stunned, and I see definitely in 10s this being a lot more of a headache because somebody needs to save their displacement for this all the time. Then you're gonna need it at higher keys, your displacement. So that I'm wary of it. I thought it was the easiest one to deal with, but I'm wary of it because we weren't doing high keys at the time.
Technique.
Pretty much gonna mirror what Shawnee said. I was thinking the same thing. Like I like the affixes that have the kiss curse type of appeal to them. I don't think, to your statement, like, oh, well, what happens when you get the couple that you can't hit because they're in the untouchable zone on the boss fight? Who gives a fuck, dude? Boss gets a haste buff for a couple seconds. Who cares? It's not like you
a 40% haste buff.
So pop a couple cooldowns and play the game, dude. What do you want me to say?
What the fuck are you
He's
talking
talking
about?
about?
What do you want me to say? Like, you want this to be like easy peasy, fucking like, oh, let's just walk around and collect the balls and everyone gets a buff every single time.
He's
like,
the only
man,
person
it
whose
should
opinion
be
changes halfway through a podcast.
In Technique's defense, I've done a few keys where the boss has got like say 2 orbs. It wasn't
nobody
the
gives a
worst
fuck.
thing.
But you weren't doing a 10.
I know it
Okay.
wasn't then,
So
but at the
my
same
point-
regard, I'm 3 weeks ahead of when I was doing that 8. So
should pick up what I was saying. It's not like he got the entire buff. He's never going to get 100% of the orbs, first of all. But also, second, like
40% though is a common. Like there's 4 that got out.
I never seen that many.
That's because we
Mr.
displace
Holy
them the
Light.
second they go down.
That's
Next
like
week,
a
you guys are going to be bitching about
No,
stuff.
I know. I'm going to run with you all next week, Technique. I'm going to run with you every single thing you do. I'm going to make sure I'm there for you so that I can wait. I'm just going to wait one time and I'm going to leave 4 up. I'm just going to leave them up on one of the bosses and I want to see how you react. I'll record it. I will put it on this podcast and I will see how you do when we're running that 11 Dawnbreaker and that fucking thing slaps the shit out of you.
My prop build, dude. It's like nothing you've ever seen. It's awesome.
What is he talking about?
It's awesome.
That's a little Trump-esque in my opinion.
No, I picked up a new build today, and I'm like,
okay, we got to keep moving.
But wait, I got to finish the answer, dog.
Okay, go quick. No, and this is just this one, though. Don't go into the others, because we're going to go into those in a second.
I don't know your
We're
other
gonna go on the
questions,
next
dude. I didn't
one.
even read your fucking pregame thing.
You never do.
So I like what Shawnee said, and I forget the rest of the stuff I was going to say.
Okay,
so let's just go on
the next one. The next one is the what was this one? Oh,
The orbs
the orbs that
run
travel
into the
towards the
boss.
boss or the mobs. Right?
God.
So, what do you guys think about this one? And by the way,
Let me talk,
the curse was damage reduction, right? Like they take.
Let me. No, they also did more damage, didn't they?
No, I think they just took
Oh
less.
no! I got it wrong. No, they have a stacking damage buff, 10% more
They
damage.
do. They get a stacking damage buff. Let me tell you about this one. This one is going to be. This one is going to be removed. I'm calling it now. This is my prediction because they did not plan. There's in every dungeon, there's like 10 parts of every dungeon where there's like a giant fucking pizza slice out of the screen where nobody can go because there's a beam or a tornado or a tsunami or whatever the fuck. And that's always if the affix comes from there, the tank will die because the boss eats all the orbs. It happened to me on many 10s. Or 8s or 9s. I don't remember what I was doing that week. And it was so frustrating. And it was so buggy when it first came out, the siege thing where it was going to tentacles. Even when they fixed it, it was still going through the water into tentacles. Like it doesn't work. There's way too much movement dependent mechanics.
If an ad dies, it like jumps to a new ad and zips around you.
They're fast. No, my biggest issue is that there's so many movement dependent mechanics where it's like you can't be in this frontal or you can't be in this beam or you have to be rotating in this pizza slice like in Dawnbreaker or whatever the fuck. And if an orb is there on a higher key, like on an 11 or something, because it's not active on 12s, like that's
actually a good point. I didn't think about that. Yeah.
Bricking of the key. That's the bricking of the key. And I had many keys bricked by them, like us just being in where we were supposed to be for the boss mechanic, and the orbs were elsewhere. And it was like somebody needs to sacrifice themselves, or the boss is gonna get a trillion million damage.
So Shawnee, you agree with her?
Everything scraps at 100% agree. I thought that was the worst one with like a mob would die and an orb that was coming to you just zips around you and goes to this new mob. Like it was people were dying left, right, and center trying to get to them. And it was like people were dying trying to do that mechanic over boss mechanics and running into frontals and stuff. Like,
yeah,
I found that one the worst out of all of them.
But do you agree with me, Shawnee, that how do you fix this one? You can't fix it. There's too many mechanics in the dungeon that depend on you being in a certain place. You have to just get rid of it. You can't fix this one unless you take away the curse.
I would say, yeah, I feel like it was an interesting idea that didn't work out.
I think you could fix it, but it would require way too much coding for them to like individually cater it to every mob.
It would have to be like these don't spawn and if there's any movement mechanic where you have to be at a certain place, it would be. And in every dungeon, there's multiple
or that they force
times.
them to spawn where you guys would be easily able to get them.
This one is going. It has to go. You can't fix it. It's too broken.
Technique.
What's the question?
The orbs flying into the boss one. How do you feel?
I like it, dude.
Fuck you, Technique.
Okay.
You have no idea.
We're moving on. All right, the next one. The mob spawns. Now, granted, they did change this where it doesn't like have as much health.
I agree. It wouldn't be hard to code this specifically for boss fights. Just be like, hey,
what?
Wouldn't
be hard.
The orb one or this one?
What do you mean?
They go to every mob and say, okay, this one's gonna do it this way.
Look, when bigwigs, boss spawns, all this shit, everything's a scripted encounter. It's not like it's fucking rocket science. You say, hey, when this ability's upcoming, turn the fucking thing off, and then turn it back on after. It's not hard.
But every dungeon has like 10 plus points. Where
you can literally assign one fucking like crawling. What do you?
Cubicle crawler.
One cubicle crawler, one afternoon.
I don't have the energy.
They can't even move the hitbox on Dawnbreaker for the harpoon.
Same code with a different X or Y or Z.
If there's a WoW
game for the podcast,
if there's a WoW developer out there who wants to bring Technique to the studio for like a week and just let him see.
I don't have to know. I don't
Uh-huh.
have to know how hard it
To
is.
know.
I'm gonna tell them it's not that hard. If I was their boss, I'd be like, "Fucking make it happen. Can't be that
Or you're
hard. Get
fired.
it done. Get it done."
Or
All
your
right,
cubicle's
the
getting
the mob,
crumpled.
the mob with dark prayer that makes the damage reduction on
This
the.
one's shit also.
I'm. It's again. I think the premise of it, I don't mind. It's 100% the timing of it. When you're like in mist and you're on the first boss and you're about to plow into the one guy that you got to plow into, and the ad comes out and you're like, oh, we got to kill this ad, and it takes away that hero window to get through that, and now it's making a 2-phase fight, like 3 or 4. Yeah, it's the timing of it. Otherwise, I think it's a cool idea, but I'm not crazy about it. Like, I hate it when it gets in the middle of mobs and you're trying to find it. And,
Good or bad?
yeah.
I totally
good or
agree
bad?
with Shawnee.
Which one?
The one that has the
I'd
mob spawn, Zalteth spawn.
I'm leaning towards bad because I don't feel like the reward from it feels like I get enough boost either. So
Technique.
yeah, I'm leaning bad.
He's looking it up.
Sorry, no. What? You talking about the one that spawns the ads that you just have to kill?
No,
Or
no,
the
the,
one
the one,
ad.
the one ad that just follows around whoever has thread on it, and you got to kill it while it puts damage reduction on the boss or the mobs.
Oh, that's the easiest one.
Technique.
It's brain dead, dumb, simple.
No, I'm with
Does it reduce
Shawnee.
your cooldowns when you kill it? Is that the one?
Yeah, it's CDR.
Yes.
Oh, I
And it
love
doesn't
that
feel-
one. Actually,
I-
I love that one.
One thing I do appreciate about it greatly is that it is an executable. Like it's in the execute range for everyone.
Yes,
Also,
and
so
that you can touch death. and
yeah,
stuff.
you can touch death. You can break the shield on it if you have like a.
Unless it gets healed by
warrior
like
ability?
the Mist Dragon Circle or something.
I don't
And-
think it
and
has a
people-
huge. Even if it does get healed, I don't think it has a huge
Yeah.
health pool.
I feel like it's the least buggy of them all. Like it's one
Yeah,
that you
but-
can like as a tank. I can taunt it to me. It'll come to me. It runs.
It
It's
doesn't
not
do
a
damage, you don't have to
caster.
taunt it.
It's. I don't really know that it has a negative effect. I don't know that I ever had a single one actually go and buff the boss. Not once.
I
What the
had
fuck?
one where it
Buff
wiped. I had one where we.
How? It's one fucking dude you taunt it, you kill it. It's big. It's got
No,
the
the
longest
problem is
timer on the planet.
technique.
You have 6 years to kill it. I
No,
don't understand.
technique. The problem is the timing. The affix is fine. I agree with
It
Shawnee,
ra-
though. The timing is way too
Hold on.
impactful
It's just
for
one more
arbitrary
thing to
timing.
attack.
Technique. Do you know that it ramps up though? It doesn't like take that full cast bar to then does nothing.
Right. Well, I've never felt a negative effect from it.
Because you're not the DPS, you're not
Did you
worried
listen
about
to
the
what
damage
Shawnee
reduction.
said?
What did Johnny say?
What do you think? What's the difference between a 2-phase missed first boss and a 4-phase missed boss? Like 2 minutes.
Not,
Is
okay,
it
hold
that
on. It's
boss?
not that
It's
egregious.
arbitrary
It's not that
timing.
egregious.
I've
You know
seen
what?
it.
It
No,
definitely
because
has-
you
Oh,
can
which-
cleave that thing down and
you
get it
have
killed.
your-
It might slow things down by like 10%. With a 2-phase
you
to
can
1-phase
cleave it.
maybe.
You have
If
to
it's the
target
difference
it.
between a phase.
Yes, I agree.
it
That's
could be a
one, but
minute.
not 2 to 4.
Okay, but I'm just saying
Wow.
it's the timing of it coming up is so arbitrary, and it could mean a minute to no fault of the players. It's just based on the
So
timing.
they just need to eliminate affixes because everyone's gonna bitch about the part that's
No,
not good.
I think this one has
You
less
could slow DPS. Crap.
ruinous. Hold on, I think this one has less ruinous application than the previous one. I think there's definitely some boss mechanics, especially where it should just not come up. I think that first boss of Mists, I think Necrotic Wake Stitch Flesh, it shouldn't come up. But like,
Okay.
it's just that if it means the difference between a phase and not, and has no to no fault of the players, that's very frustrating. It needs a tweak.
Okay.
It needed a tweak, and they gave it a tweak. It needs a
So
little bit more.
technically you say good, you two say bad.
I am
think
leaning bad, but I think it
the
can be
only-
fixed.
bad.
the only affix that's not good is the one you're coming up to next. I think.
All
and
right.
That's the current one.
Tell us
Today's
about it.
affix?
Tell us about it.
It requires dispels that only certain classes can do, and I've already submitted my solution to this. Give us a button, a fucking
Oh
world-
yeah, your butt.
a global button.
His button, yeah.
Now, it doesn't require
I mean-
dispels though. There are other ways to get around it.
Oh, okay. Well,
What- I haven't even
The only
seen
way
this
I know
week's.
now is for a shaman to drop a poison removal totem,
Well, that's the
and
easiest
the
way
whole
to do
world
it.
gets saved. Yeah. So
Yeah.
once again, shamans are the best healer in the
Yeah,
game.
that's my main frustration with it, is that it gives you a reason to take shamans when everybody's already fucking taking shamans.
Yeah.
What's the deal with this week? 'Cause I haven't got
Okay,
to see it.
let me
You have to
explain it. Let me
dispel
explain it.
yourself, or somebody dispels
I'm going to give you
you
an example at level 10 because I didn't realize how egregious this was. So every like 2 minutes, let's say,
This one's actually punishing. It's bad.
she will hit everyone in the group with a healing absorb debuff. Okay. Any
Okay.
dispel can remove it. So you could remove it with the cleanse, right? Scrap, can you remove it with like feign death?
Yeah, for me it's complete cheese. It's just like boom, done. I have no
But
problem
here's the
with it.
thing: at a level 10, I think Squishy put this in Twitter. It gives you a 5 million health heal absorb. So if you have a healer with the pug group scene where no one's dispelling themselves, right? You
Mhm.
effectively have everyone drop to 0 health, because like 5.5 mil to 6 mil is like the average. So let's say they drop to about 20% health with a healing absorb, all the while in a 10 dealing with all the mechanics that are going on. That if you have miscommunication between your pug or even a good group that doesn't have all the cleanses that you want, it could be a huge strain on the healer. I love the idea of this sitting on you and just doing nothing, except for if you don't dispel, then like it gives the boss. Like, let's say it's a 12-second dispel, and that allows the 12 seconds would give the healer 2 dispels theoretically, and granted they usually have to use them on other things, but they give them 2 dispels in that window, while the other 3 people deal with it the way they need to deal with it, right? And then if you don't dispel it, the boss gets, actually I think this happens, the boss gets healed, or whatever you're attacking gets healed for 10% health, right?
Ooh.
But on top of that,
had the heal go off, and it's like really, really punishing.
yeah, so the joke was, imagine it happening on the final boss of Dawnbreaker, where you get it down to 60%, and then you go down and you're flying, so no one's getting dispelled. Everyone lands, the spell finishes, and it heals up back to 100%. It's a wipe.
Has anybody actually seen that happen?
No,
or is it just like
the thing doesn't affect you if you're on your mount. Well, I've noticed that if you're
out of
combat,
but you're still in combat,
so
then.
Yeah, and
if you're
Dawnbreaker
on a
in combat.
mount,
The whole
Dawnbreaker, you are
mount.
technique. Have you not played Dawnbreaker?
I've never been to the Dawnbreaker.
They only let you on the
No,
mount
I mean-
in fights. Remember the first boss where you're literally fighting the boss and you get on your mount? You think you're leaving combat? Remember Misro dying in Dawnbreaker
That
yesterday
one
because he
fight.
had the
Yeah, that
debuff?
one fight.
The third fight where you get on your mount and chase after the boss down to the ground?
Frank, no one's talking to you, man.
Okay.
This isn't even
Anyways.
a podcast.
Anyways, this is extremely punishing, I think. If it were just the healing the mobs failure to move, I would say there's maybe a space for it, because again, if you're like doing a big pull and everything gets healed by 10%, like that's 1 tick of sanguine. Everyone like it's fine, right?
Yeah.
But the fact that there's a 5 million healing absorb on every person that has it in the meantime is insane to me.
I would like to see
insane.
like how many classes can't deal with it themselves. Is there a lot of classes that can't deal with it themselves?
I haven't
Can you
seen
heal
it.
yourself
Most
for
people.
5 million?
Well, no, you just
Yep,
gotta get
every
rid
time you
of
get a
it.
shiny lay of hands yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can self heal yourself too, right? To get rid of it.
Yes, but
You don't
scrap
have to
5
spell.
million self healing. That's insane.
No, yeah, I can't. I mean, so on one hand, I'm glad I don't have to deal with this at all. But on the other hand, I don't like affixes that only certain classes can deal with. I had an issue with that with Incorporeal and whatever the other fucking one was. I can't remember what it was. Not fun affix. Let's just put it there. It's what's fun about this. There's nothing fun about it.
Yeah,
In fairness, there's not really much fun to
especially
do.
on the healer part where you're already strong as shit as a shaman, and now you're the only one people want to take.
Yeah, that's
Kinda
ridiculous
dumb.
that Shaman has such a disproportionately good way to deal with this. Like, what? Like, literally, what? Why are we putting so much pressure on healers anyway? And then 2, why does one healer just like have a get out of jail free card?
Well,
for
no,
this
priest have
affix?
master
Doesn't make any
spell.
sense. Yeah, okay, 2. I haven't seen a freaking priest in keys, I swear.
Anyways, so this affix, good or bad? Scrap,
Bad.
Shawnee,
I would say bad. I haven't seen it in person, but it sounds horrible.
technique.
Horrible, Shawnee.
Yeah.
It's bad.
Okay, so for the most part, it's split. Not split because technique 1 to 3 on the votes there, but I just want to
The
get
other
your
two
letter
are
grade here.
great.
Letter grade
This
here.
one's
So
bad.
the new affixed, and again, I say affixed system. I know we have an entirely new affixed system, but like the new interactive affixed system.
Seasonal affix.
Yeah, well, I don't know if this will be seasonal or expansion or whatever, but
God. Imagine.
what letter grade do you give it?
F.
F. Okay, Shawnee.
Untested garbage.
It was tested, but
For all of
if you
for
had seen
all
what
of
its
it
original
overall?
state was, you would have been horrified. Okay, Shawnee, sorry.
Yeah, and they changed it and they didn't test it. They were putting it on the desk at the last minute. You can't give this anything but an F.
I mean, overall, like considering all the affixes together, like all of it, like all the different weeks.
I'm just talking
Ugh.
about the seasonal one because I like the fortified tyrannical change. I like the 12 change.
No, but like
no,
the
just
new
the playable
seasonal one.
fixes, yeah.
It's like a DE range for me, only because like I feel like the balls aren't a bad one overall. Like the
Okay.
ones that I can like
Not a
holy
huge
shock or whatever
failure.
way.
Not a huge failure, but
Yeah,
there's definitely
but-
work.
And I feel like if they tweak them, I think it'd be like a B for me, but it's DE range.
Okay, so quick to bounce back though if they make just some minor tweaks.
I think it could be tweaked and work. This last one sounds horrible.
Okay.
Horrible.
Technique.
Like I said earlier, I think the first two are great. You know, not super punishing, not super rewarding, but still kind of changes the game up a little bit. And this last one is like mainly because it it specifically requires a certain player to do something.
Okay.
Like a warrior can't dispel anything. I can't do shit. So that's really sad.
Yeah.
And for that reason, I'm out.
Just gonna say one last thing about the affix. We've had fun affixes in the past, especially seasonal
Letter
ones
F, by the way.
like the woo and the affix. Everybody loves that one.
Sexy. I love those.
Prideful was fun. The Boam Samdi affix from BFA. I
Yeah,
like
man.
Thundering. I know nobody else liked Thundering, but like
I liked it.
yeah, I think Thundering was a fun affix.
No.
Why can't they design affixes around being enjoyable? Like, is there a way we can make affixes difficult but satisfying? Because these are just all like they're not fun to interact with, and that's my biggest issue.
I feel like some of them are, but okay.
Of these four,
Yeah.
are fun to interact with.
Yeah.
What's fun to interact with?
I like again, my problem doesn't lie with are they fun to interact with. I think the mobs, well, first off, technique I need letter grade.
F. Man.
Okay.
F just for for this affix. The other two
No,
are
all
A+,
of them.
bro.
All
No,
of
for the
them.
whole thing.
Okay,
whole
fine.
system.
What's 2 A's and an F? I don't know. A C+.
Well, there was 4, by the way.
he's
I don't care about the fourth
mixed them
one.
together in his
Over
head.
Okay. So I think on the surface, this is a lot of fun, right? I think even if it means that it's like, okay, well, it's just a dispel on me. That's fine. I'm happy to get.
Compared to the and the woe and the thundering, it's not an A.
Well, yeah, but you can't have like, especially if you have a rotational one, you can't have all those rotating. It's just gonna be insane, because then you'll have the exact same problem. You'll have the exact same problem where like 1 week is push week and then the rest other 3 are not because there's woes, you know?
Yeah.
Whoa.
I mean, I know we had this argument, I can't remember if it was on the podcast or just in general, of like, do you like affixes?
The
And I like
podcast never ends.
affixes. I'm sorry. But like I know that I like we talked about it, and the community Mythic Plus community at large doesn't like affixes. That's why you have the 12 thing coming in now.
That's I think an unfair.
Is that a stretch?
I'd say that the high end Mythic don't like it, but I think
Okay,
the
that's
everyday
fair.
player does.
I like affixes. I don't want to be doing the same exact thing every week because I do so many goddamn dungeons. But I think there's got to be a way to make them more fun, and I
Okay.
don't know what that is. But
So
that's just my overall.
A completely random affix every time you put a key in. You don't know what you're fucking.
I wish they did that. I wish they did that. For these 4, you just get a little rotation. It's like which was going.
You know what would
Because then you
Not
wouldn't
even
pick
these 4.
shamans for this, right?
Frank, you know
Any
what
of 'em.
happened? A 10 would go in the key, the timer would start, somebody would leave the group based on what affix.
You're
We're
right.
like,
That's true.
"Oh, we're
That's
not
true.
timing it."
Yeah,
It'd
you're
be
right.
so
That's true.
fucking
Okay.
toxic.
Yeah. That's true.
And punish them. They can't queue up for fucking 20 hours.
Well,
man.
okay, that's another
I'm
discussion.
good with that.
So
Yeah.
my letter grade is C. I think it on at the heart of it, it's got something going. It does need tweaking. How easy that tweaking is, I don't know, but I think it could be great. At least especially if it's like this is the seasonal fix and it like goes away and then they try something different, like that's even better. But I think at the end of the day, my question to y'all is, do you think you would trade this for sanguine, entangling, explosive, volcanic? What was the twister one? The tornadoes? Storming. Would you trade this for that? If you had a gun to your head and said you have to pick one or the other, which one do you pick?
This.
I hate that I like this right now, but it's just so new. And when you said like explosive, I actually like gagged a little bit. It's just
Or
like,
even
no,
sanguine. Let's just say
never again.
sanguine. Sanguine.
I like
Storming.
sanguine. I'm enjoying that they're trying something new, but like I'm hoping that next season we get a different affix. I mean, they came up with these affixes in like 2 weeks because
Yes, like
everybody hated the other
very
one.
quickly.
Like, let's see what they can do with 2 months of coming up with affixes, but like better than they did last time because everybody
I
hated
think
it.
like the general gist is for me, don't make affixes that are specific to a certain player or class.
Wholeheartedly agree with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like Sanguine's fun. It gives the tank something different to do in the key. But it doesn't matter what tank you are, like you still have a way to deal with it.
Okay.
Explosives sucked. Nobody liked explosives.
I did on my
So-
pally, but I get why no one else did.
I didn't like it. The only thing that was funny about explosives was the weak aura that was a leaderboard, and even then I didn't really care.
Okay, so this is it sounds like for the most part I'm just gonna give it like an F because you guys are so strongly on it. So
well, let's revisit it when they fix it and they take away
maybe,
that
yeah.
second affix.
So we had a really good start, a lot of A's, a lot of B's, right? First two
Yeah.
topics, then a huge plummet down. Okay, now let's just quickly go on ahead and do a quick tier list of the dungeons. Okay,
Oh gosh,
So-
this is gonna be a long podcast.
we know we're gonna do this very quickly. I need everyone just
Okay.
quickly
Let's
tell me. Don't
If
if
listeners
you
need
only
us. We've
speak
been
up.
out for
Only speak up if
16
you
weeks.
are very passionate about why you disagree with where we land. Okay,
I've had
so
a whole couple
Okay.
of drinks. I'm
rapid
very passionate.
fire, Dawnbreaker
Rapid fire.
first. Technique. Where do you put it? A S A B
Fucking
C.
hate it. It's only because it's buggy as shit. Otherwise, it's great. But because it's so buggy,
When I
and they
said
haven't
rapid
seemed to
fire, give me
fix
a
it-
letter and not explain anything. What part of it did you not understand?
You
So let me
rapid
start
fire
over since the
fast.
audience. I was interrupted by a friend. It's a D.
Okay,
In fact, it's the worst D.
Shawnee.
No, I gotta have an argument.
I love the dungeon, but I
I'd put
hate
it
the
B.
bugs.
B. Scrap.
Yeah.
I say B also. B
Okay.
plus.
I say S, but okay. So we'll put it
Give
at
it B plus.
we'll put it at C. Okay. So technique and scrap quickly. Fight.
About
Bro,
Dawnbreaker?
Yeah.
You cannot have a reliable key where I float. I literally this morning I did a Dawnbreaker that should have been an easy 10, and I fucking fell through the boat twice as the tank.
That's I haven't
how to
And the
fly,
whole
dude.
and the whole group's like looking at me like, you dumb fucking Tauren bitch tank. What happened? And I'm like, well,
It's 'cause
this
you're fat.
buggy- Yeah, this buggy ass, like, I don't know.
I will
Like,
say my opinions changed because the first week and a half or so I experienced every bug on the face of the planet with this, and I feel like the last like 10 runs have been pretty bug free. And I think aesthetically it's really cool.
it
And
like I
the
said,
timer's
otherwise it's
cushy.
beautiful, but they gotta fix that shit, man. This
Yeah,
isn't
they do. I
fucking
agree. They
first
have to fix
grade
it. Let's leave it
code
as
shit.
C.
Be better.
Okay.
Yeah.
I put an S. I think it's the fights are fun. Everything about it's fun.
You've
I
never
love it.
fallen through the
Otherwise,
boat.
it's
I have.
great.
I
I love
have.
the dungeon
And I
otherwise.
still love it otherwise. I like, yeah,
I
it's a
think
bug.
all
And
the encounters are
Scrap.
better. No, it's
you weren't there for the
What?
necrotic wake that we were like gonna 3 chest. It was like a necrotic wake 10 that we were gonna 3
Oh,
chest.
the
We were doing so
totem?
well. And then he's just Surgeon's Stitch Fix or whatever is just like not coming down because they keep grabbing the thin air. But anyways, okay.
grabs
Arakara,
a
Yeah.
City
totem.
of
You can grab a
Echoes.
totem, apparently.
Everything. You can,
Echoes?
spell effects.
Let me give my grade first.
Okay, scrap first.
I give it A plus.
Okay, Shawnee.
Is that the one with the
It's a short
pull-in boss
one.
at the end?
The
The
boss
shorter
that-
one
Yeah, short one.
pulls you in. I'll give it a B.
Okay. So A plus B technique.
It's one of my favorites, man. I give it a. I'm gonna give it an S.
I'm gonna give it an S too.
It's one
I
of my
love
favorites.
this dungeon. I love
I
this
love
dungeon.
it too. I wish I could see it more. I feel like they're not giving me that key.
Like
You know?
the middle boss, the new boss, a little boring, but otherwise it's
No,
still
I like
a
the
decent
new
fight.
one. As,
It's-
a,
it's a
as
little-
a melee DPS, that one's fun. You're flying all over the place.
Okay. So we're all pretty happy with that. Okay. Grim Batal.
Yeah.
Oh,
Shawnee, you start us
C.
this time. C, okay.
C. Yeah.
I give it a B plus.
Technique.
I'm gonna give it an A, man. It's incredibly punishing, but I think if everything's done right, it's not so bad.
We're gonna
There's
put it-
nothing in
I'm
that
gonna put it
dungeon
in
that's
B.
not hard. Every
gonna-
part of
Yeah,
that dungeon is hard.
It's tough. Yeah.
But I love the boss fights. I mean, I give it an A too.
Great.
I love the
I
bosses.
just wish there was like a single solitary part where you could like breathe, but every single part is so hard.
Every pull is like
Every pull is hard.
All right, Mists. There have been some changes that were for the better.
I give Mist a B. I think Mist is kind of boring.
Okay. Shawnee.
S.
S. Okay.
I love
Yeah.
Mist.
strictly, man. Honestly, all these the only well, I'm gonna put it at an A as well, man. I love tanking mists. There's so many big ass pulls.
I'm not gonna lie, I love how easy it is to time, but I'm already sick of it.
This is my least favorite dungeon. I
This?
hate.
The only thing I don't like about it is
hate-
the puzzle getting through the dungeon, but
Frank, what do you
otherwise I
hate
like it.
Mist?
I hate the last boss.
It's so average. Oh,
I
the last
hate
boss. It's
the
kinda
last boss.
frustrating.
If they nerfed its health by 15 or 10%, then I'd be like, okay, I can vibe with this, right? But that last boss just takes forever.
It's the only boss that's hard though.
It is. It feels like a
Well,
last boss.
The
'cause
first
it's
boss
scary.
isn't hard, but it's hard because you have to
that's
get through it quickly.
Easy way to put it. It feels like
Yeah.
a last boss.
Yeah.
I think that's good. Not just
All right.
the last boss, but it feels like the boss.
Well, I'm not
Yeah,
gonna
dungeon.
drag it down. You guys all loved it, so I'll leave it at A. Okay, Necrotic Wake
Love it, it's
technique,
fine.
kick us off.
my number one favorite dungeon, dude.
Oh,
I
so
love
above our
the only thing I absolutely don't like about it is I don't know that I don't like it. I think and everyone knows the third boss, man. If you fucking wipe, you just leave the group. You're done on a higher
Yeah.
key. Like you just cannot do it with all the weapons and bloodlust. Like
Is that a good thing though?
Just
You need to
leave.
bring 3 javelins and hero
Um,
into it.
no,
I
that's
think
what I'm
they
saying.
need
That's the only thing
tuning.
that's the only thing I don't love about it. Otherwise, I love the dungeon, dude. I love it.
Okay, Sonny.
I've done it with no weapons and no hero, and it's
Yeah, I have
it's
too.
an S dungeon for me, just because I feel the most joy next besides like when we get AOTC, getting the 10 Necrotic Wake this season brought me so much joy, just because I feel like it is a
You earned it.
hard dungeon. Yeah, I feel like it's the hardest one because the third boss is so hard, and then the last boss feels like it takes forever.
The
that, like,
timer is
yeah.
unbelievably tight in Necrotic.
Yeah,
Wake,
and
I'll
it's
say that.
yeah. To
Well,
me,
yeah,
it's
and I mean,
fair.
you know. All right, so what's your
So
letter grade
coming
for
from
it?
a
it's S.
Okay,
It's S. I will-
coming from a warrior perspective, really quickly, there are so many things that like you gotta have a death knight for, man. Like you don't roll up into that second boss.
okay.
Yes,
no
you
death
I'm
do.
trying
Just
to move
move
us
around.
quickly, and I'm going to remind
We got all
everyone
the time in
you
the
don't
world,
need to give an explanation unless I ask for it. Scrap
B.
B.
explain
Okay,
everything.
I'm
man.
gonna put it.
I like
I'm gonna
this-
put it at second tier S because I don't agree that it's S tier, but 2 of you really love it. I'm at a B as well, but I'm just gonna leave it
Yeah.
at S because you know you
It
guys
needs
love it so much.
tuning. But
Siege
it's
of
good.
Borealis.
It's a good dungeon. Oh, ugh.
Scrap.
B. Minus.
Shawnee.
It's what's the lowest letter there? D.
D.
No, it's
D.
not that bad.
Okay.
I hate this dungeon.
Technique.
I'll go with a B.
B?
You know, all the nerfs recently, it's like an easy key anymore.
It is easy, but it's
The
yeah.
trash is
it's-
harder than any of the
It feels
bosses.
too long.
I love this dungeon. You guys are
You love
assholes.
you still
I
on your
love
Siege train.
Siege, and
I
the
will say-
changes they made were so good.
You know what, Frank? At the beginning of the season, when they were announcing the dungeons, I was shitting so much on Siege because I hated it in BFA. But I like it a lot more now.
Yeah.
It's a solid B. Maybe
It
even
was
B+.
one of the easier ones to time this week for sure.
It is, yeah, for sure.
Stone Vault. Technique.
Ooh.
Don't care for it that much, man. Honestly,
Yeah, C.
C.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
C.
think
Damn.
I think there's a few abilities in the trash that's like incredibly overtuned for tanks. Just a few,
also a
especially in
very
like
dull route.
in the void lane. I forget what it's called, but anyway, there's an ability that it just happens like every 15 seconds. It's
So-
a big fucking tanker.
All 3 of you are on C.
Yeah,
Mhm.
this is my least favorite one, and I can't even
Damn.
put my finger on it.
I
It's
like this
the
one a
route's
lot.
always the same, and
I like
You
this
know,
one a lot.
trash is annoying.
I love the first boss that you have to dispel 30 seconds after the dispel goes out. I love that.
And nobody
Um,
can figure it out in bugs.
No, well, they will. All right, in City of Threads, Scrap.
S ahead of Necrotic Wake, but
S?
below Echoes. I love Threads. I love it.
Shawnee.
Like C. Or
Okay.
wait, no, sorry, B's the third letter. B.
B. Okay. Technique.
I'm gonna give that the shittiest fucking score
What?
possible.
You guys
It's a
are...
If you could
What's
drag
your
it into a
taste?
different
This one right
window.
here.
No,
I
don't.
I hate to walk around and find the fucking guy you gotta
I-
kill. Watch out for
But
the
when you get it
detectors. They'll send you
fast, it's
back
really
to the
good.
beginning. No, fuck
Well,
that.
I'll say
I
that
hate
the
that
timer
dungeon.
is the timer's plenty cushy in Threads that you
It
have a lot
is.
of leeway.
It's
at
easy
that
to
part.
time, but I hate the dungeon for the stupid.
I'm with
features
Technique.
of the dungeon.
This is my least favorite dungeon of the
But it's
entire
got the
season.
best bosses.
No, it does not.
Yeah, it does.
I don't hate the
one of the best
bosses.
ones.
The
I
last
hate the
boss is not that
bosses.
great. What are you
The last
talking
boss
about?
is awesome. It's so good.
No, and then
The
the
orbs, you're
third
constantly
boss
moving
where
around
you
the
just
room.
like, oh, make sure no orbs hit him.
No, I don't like the
Make
third
sure
one.
no orbs
But
hit
the
him.
first and the second one I like a lot.
No.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay,
It's one of my
so
favorites.
I'll take a quick second here. MythicDungeonLeague.com. Let me go and pull that up real quick. You can go to our website and check out this tier list, as well as I will be posting this on Twitter. I'll be posting it in our Discord. I'll also be posting it on YouTube, and I'll post it at the website, where we will allow you guys to rate the Mythic Season 1 dungeons and give us your tier list. We have like a aggregate one coming from the tier list maker, I think, that'll like kind of put everyone's score together. So I want to hear from y'all about how you feel this dungeon pool is going. And actually, I'm going to show you one more thing real quick. I want to kind of document this. So here is, I'm going to make sure I got, yes, War Wounds. Okay. So here is the percentiles. This would be the season title if it were in right now, which of course it wouldn't, at 2735 for all factions. And we currently sit, so we are roughly 2550, I think is our average score between all of
I'm a
us.
little bit higher than that, Frank.
That's why it's average scrap.
Okay. Oh,
You
yeah.
couldn't help yourself.
I can't.
You
I can't
couldn't
help
help yourself.
I can't.
Highest score,
Well,
lowest
even
DPS.
right there, it says Keystone Hero
No.
2500 plus is top
Yeah.
3.9%.
Not when Frank's in the group.
Now, because I'm Horde, I'm in the top 3%.
Wait, what?
Look down where it says percentile
Yeah,
by
oh yeah, these,
achievement.
yeah.
Yeah, no, scroll. I don't
Well,
know,
yeah,
you went
both
left.
of them, yeah.
Yeah, look at the top
Yeah.
where it says Keystone Hero. So because I'm Horde, I'm better than you guys. Is what
I'm
it
no,
hard
says.
because-
also technique.
No, because
I hate
everyone's
high five.
night elves and dwarves, you morons. Anyways,
Rick
so
Tarin, though, bro. What are you
Yeah,
talking about?
Torin Master Race.
I just want to document this on screen so we can refer back to
No.
it at another point, right?
Okay.
Again, no one has timed all 4 teams right now. And I wonder if it tells me how many
I
people.
can't even dream about a 14 right
Six,
now.
Dude, I- like,
611
14's gonna make me
people of the
puke.
world have
I have a house
done
to fix.
all 13s. Okay, so I'm curious to see how this evolves over the season. We'll revisit a couple times, but I just want to put that on screen so we can look at it and all go ooh and ah for those people who are doing well. We currently stand, I would say, because it's a little bit of an exponential curve, I'd say we're probably in the top 2% right now.
I can't believe that. That's insane.
Right.
That's
um,
always where we are, I feel like.
So
I know, but I don't feel like we
we've
are.
hovered in the top 5% before.
Yeah, you're right.
But anyways, okay. So I
Dude,
just
if
want
we
to
were
put
in
that
the
on
top 2% in like income, we would be like Bill
Not
Gates.
Yeah,
doing
I
this
would way rather
We
be
would be.
that.
We are the Bill Gates of World of Warcraft.
Can I trade that in? Because I'd way rather be good at that.
How sick is that?
Okay.
What
How
if
sick
we-
is that?
Wait.
I'm going to talk about that with you after the podcast technique because I think you'd be surprised. But anyways,
Hey, wait, before scrap, what if we put the time into our work that we do into WoW and just
Oh
play
god,
WoW?
we'd be rich.
question of
Right.
the week. So Ioski in our Discord asked, did the delay of the release of M Plus actually increase your enjoyment of this season so far, of course? So
Absolutely fucking not. It made me do delves. I'll go first.
they go
No.
first. No. Okay. Scrap.
No, I like doing delves for a week, and I didn't have the pressure of you guys making me have to play all night to get my score up. So I like the delay.
Okay. Shawnee.
Okay, chill.
Yeah, honestly, I forgot there was a delay, so it didn't. I didn't care
Yeah,
either way.
Yeah. We
It
can all
made
go
no difference to
outside a
me.
little bit more. It's fine.
I've
Yeah.
heard a lot of people say that it was kind of nice to not have to stress about WoW for a little while.
Yeah.
But I felt like, yes, it was good, I think, but I feel like there was a miss still on this idea that, again, we've talked about Mythic Plus being harder, but the Mythic Zeros and the Heroics were not, right?
Right.
They
Yeah, they
didn't
weren't a
teach
good
people mechanics
preparation.
when they had 5, 80 item level or whatever. And
Yep.
so that is the miss I really wish they would address going forward. But otherwise, it
Do you
doesn't
think-
sound like we'll have that gap going forward, unless
Frank,
it's an
do you think
expansion
maybe they
launch.
should do like Mythic Zeros 1 week, and then you can push up to 5, and then you can push up to 10, and then
Well,
you just get stopped or
I
something?
think
In the-
after you've completed every single M0 successfully, you should then be able to do M pluses.
Well, yeah, but those
Not
were easy.
Released
Well,
next
hopefully
week.
not for alts.
Not
but-
released for the whole plan at the same time. Like, dude, if I'm gonna go grind every single M0, I should be unlocked personally.
No, I don't mind not having to rush. Chill.
And then sure, finally maybe it unlocks next week for everyone. But if I do it like in 2 days, if I'm that dude, I should be able to get in.
You're saying that it should be gate kept, is what you're saying. Okay.
He loves
I think-
gatekeeping, except when he doesn't.
No. I hate that like I had nothing to do those first 3 weeks. I did not want to
Go
do
outside,
delves.
Technique.
I did.
But the
Yeah, I
MCUs, but
I
you
went
had,
outside
you
instead.
geared up that quickly.
Yeah,
Tough life you have.
same as you.
No,
You
I
didn't
did
have
not.
shit to do.
No, I did not. But I also was traveling, so it was different. But
You
okay.
weren't even in the game. You were giving your dog away.
It doesn't matter because it doesn't seem like that'll be something that's going forward anyways. But yeah, I definitely think it was interesting to say the least. Okay. Well, we are not going to hit 2 hours this week, but it is a damn long
I think
episode.
you're very efficient.
We can.
I had to
keep
really
going, man.
pull our teeth on that one.
Let's talk a little bit more.
Next week we'll probably revisit the delves and the raid. I do want to do a tier list of the raid bosses from this tier because my opinions from normal to heroic changed drastically. Other than that, though, I'll leave you guys with your final thoughts. Shawnee, any final thoughts while you sit in a wonderful upgraded suite?
Well, if this comes out in time, come see me at Tommy's tattoo convention and say hi. You don't even have to get a tattoo. It's at the what's the freaking name of the hotel I'm going to stay at?
It's in
What
Connecticut.
state?
It's
Yeah,
in Connecticut.
Yeah.
I was listening.
What should they Google to find it?
Tommy's tattoo
Tommy's
convention.
Tattoo.
Okay.
Yeah. God,
I would
Take
love,
me with
I
you.
would love if we could get a picture to put on the podcast next week with someone.
take a
from-
picture.
a fan of the
with
show.
Shawnee
Yeah, if
over
someone-
there.
Yeah, if anyone sees it, comes by, who knows? Maybe I'll like hook you up with like a.
Like a
Good
free
deal.
World of Warcraft.
Don't make any
MDL
promises.
tattoo?
I said maybe, you know.
I wanted to call
Um,
out really quick, not to derail too much, but I got a piece of gear crafted, and it was one of our regular listeners.
Oh, that's
Who,
right. You did say that. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, shoot, I can't remember his name, but he's always leaving these really detailed comments. I can
That's
picture
it.
his profile picture. It's gonna drive me crazy.
If
But,
you,
like,
I'll cut it in if you send it
yeah,
to me.
cut it in. But it cracked me up because I was just getting something crafted, and he was like, "Wait, you're Scrap Claw on the podcast." I was like, "Yeah, man, I need this to beat the IO race." And he said,
If you're
"I'm
watching,
rooting
leave
for
a
you."
comment. We'll make sure we all give it a thumbs up so you get boosted to the top.
Well,
It's,
yeah, I mean,
it's
I've always liked his comments because they're always really detailed, you know. But yeah, thank you for making me those bracers. It really helps.
It's at the Mohegan Sun Casino and Resort.
And
That's where the convention is.
and if
in
they want to follow you on
Connecticut.
Instagram, super rad, not bad, right?
Super Rad, not bad tattoos. Correct.
Follow them on Instagram, y'all. All right, Scrap. Anything else you want to add as you flashbang yourself?
Sorry, I was looking to see what his name is because it's gonna drive me crazy. But it wasn't a very good shout out. I'm sorry. No. I've been kind of like vibrating in my chair wanting to soapbox about Mythic Plus, and I have been soapboxing to anybody who will listen. So I'm glad I can kind of like bleed out the poison a little bit. Thank you for listening to my complain talk.
Oh, and
Like-
actually, Shawnee, final letter grade for season 1 so far.
Oh,
Oh, final letter.
so far. You know what? I've had the most fun I've ever had in WoW this season in a long time. So it gets an A from me.
Okay, Scrap.
I give it an A. I think the dungeons are fantastic for them. I think I like the dungeons a lot. It's fun.
Do you think that was a tune you had going into the season? Because I'm pretty sure you were not excited about it.
I was shitting all over it. I mean, I think I felt like I was gonna enjoy the Mythic Plus gameplay loop no matter what. Like even if it was totally shit. Like I was more irritated that they were cutting. It seemed like they were cutting corners in like stuff that matters to me. That's not really impactful of my gameplay loop. If that makes sense. Like on the art and on the music and on this and that and whatever. But
Do you still feel that way?
no, you know what? There's a lot of things I still am annoyed by, like the load screen or the, the spin screen still
Welcome
bothers me.
screen.
But there's been a lot of good stuff, and so I'm very happy with how this expansion is turning out.
Okay.
And yeah, so it's good. A.
And
Technique, what do you think?
Okay. Yeah, technique. What are your last thoughts? And then give us a letter grade.
I think there's a direct and converse relationship between my real life and my WoW life. I'm doing really great in WoW right now. Being a Prot Warrior is fantastic. It's been awesome. I'm an S tier tank for the first time in 3 expansions. It's a good feeling. Meanwhile, my truck, my car, and my garage and my kitchen are destroyed. And I have a dog that shits in every room in the house whenever she wants. Frank, thanks.
Wait, so hold on, what?
We're working on that.
Was
What
great
happened?
at one
Yeah, I
point.
ain't stopped
What
that.
happened? You ruined
no,
her.
you didn't, dude. Literally, no, you didn't.
What the fuck?
Okay.
No,
We'll
Tea.
talk
This is a
afterwards.
new tea.
So no. It's actually been a really good WoW expansion. I think I'm not a huge fan of all the time gatekeeping, all that stuff, the gatekeeping. But
It's over
it's
now.
been a lot of fun. I will say,
Oh.
and maybe this is another podcast, but like, dude, this expansion is expensive. I'm spending a lot of gold.
I know.
Oh,
I bought a WoW
oh,
token.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I
But
before
yes,
you
yeah,
go,
other than
Frank,
that, I'm gonna give it an A, dude. A
Okay.
plus.
Tech. I want to say Tech and I would sit before the expansion came out, and we were both kind of like, I don't know, dude. I don't know how I'm feeling about this expansion. We were both kind of hesitant, but I think, for me at least, it's excelled compared to what I thought it was going to be.
I'm gonna send
Yeah,
all three of
I
you
agree with that.
chocolate hats so you can eat them.
To eat? Okay. I love eating chocolate hats.
As long as it's like a
Well,
milk
someone's making
chocolate.
bold
I don't want that
claims.
dark chocolate, dude. I'm not into that.
It's really nice though to hear both you three or all three of you saying that you guys are like, okay, well we were pleasantly surprised. But again,
Yeah.
while Twitter is exploding and collapsing upon itself with rage about certain things, I do see tons of people still saying though they are having a great time. And that's awesome.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I spent 75% of this podcast complaining, but I'm going to play WoW right after this.
Yeah.
So,
So whatever your thoughts are, agree or disagree, and the expansion overall, I know we've done an official review, but this is obviously going to be a little more cooked now, but put them in the comments. We'd love to hear them. We'd love to react to them. And if they're great, we'll continue to talk about them next week when we visit the raid and delves. But until then, thank you so much for being patient as houses were destroyed, ears were blown, and I just didn't have power for whatever reason. Shawnee, good luck at your convention. I hope things go really well. And we will see everyone next week. Take care.